Mics are hot. Switching over in 3, 2, 1, action.
Hi, and welcome to the Technocrat Live. I'm your host, Matthew Newhall, and this is my guest, Ed Eisenstein.
Hello, how's everybody going today?
From his cabin in a distant location in the far wilds of New England.
I gotta do a golf clap.
Yeah, I've taken off. I'm doing the show from my cabin, so, wishful thinking.
Right, because now are you at your cabin because it's all gone crazy and there's just no turning back?
No, I thought we'd make a couple of scenes. You look like you're in a basement, and I took off to the country. I'm living in a cabin somewhere. And,
I'd be like, things are going terrible here in the city. Things are on fire. People are running and screaming.
Yeah.
Well, welcome.
I'm over here,
thank you for coming back on, man. I'm really psyched to have you. This is going to be a great show.
Thank you.
I think this is going to be fun. I have a couple of quick things. I usually, in the past, I've done, before we get into the dystopia report, feel free to chime in anytime, as usual. The first thing is I have an app, actually, I want to tell you guys about. I found this app. Actually, I was watching on the YouTube. It's a show called Canadian Prepper. I don't love all his stuff, but he pointed out this app, and this app is super, super useful if you have any inclination whatsoever to do any gardening or landscaping on your own. So it's called Picture This, and I think it's available for iPhone and for Android. Check it out. $20, it's worth it. You can take a picture of any plant, and it will tell you what it is. And if you're like one of those kind of like, I know what all the plants are, botanist type people, then you don't need this. But for me, who knows nothing and keeps getting poison ivy just because I try to weed my gardens because some stupid
Pants.
Because well, not there, but the neighbors would notice. They can see my backyard. Maybe that's why they say I'm crazy. All right. Anyway, so check it out. Picture this. It's worth the time. It's worth it. You get a 7-day preview. This is not an advertisement. I thought it was a great app, and once in a while, I'm pretty picky. So once in a while, I'll find something really awesome, and I want to share it. I'm going to try to do something like that every week. It's still going to be 3D prints sometimes, but sometimes I'm just not doing that week.
Matt, I'm checking it out. Just want to interject for 1 second. They have a plant identifier. They also have a bug identifier now and a bird identifier.
Really?
By the same company. So I'm getting the bug one right now. That's awesome.
Nice. I'm kind of bummed. Like, it works so well. It would have been funny. They missed an opportunity for some comedy. I took a picture of the dog thinking it would yell at me, but like with the plant finder. But then it just said plant not identified. I'm like, that's boring. Come on. At least be like, dude, that's your dog. Like, put a funny message in there. Anyway.
312,000 reviews. They're all perfect. Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It basically, it's creepy, scary scanning stuff. And, one of the problems I was having is I actually started a garden last year. And it didn't do that well because I couldn't tell the weeds from the food. Because I don't know what I'm looking at. So I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to weed, and then it just turned into a giant jungle. So now I can do it. It actually works. So,
will it tell a plastic flower from a real flower?
I don't know. I mean, everything I pointed it at, it had an answer for. So, and I don't think they were wrong. And it's not like I showed it a flower and it said it was an oak tree. I have a bunch of tree saplings in a rock garden in my house. So. This is going to happen, this show. I can tell. We're just going to flow. The conversation's just going to keep going, and then we're not going to forget that. It's just not even going to work. All right. One more thing. I do need one thing from the audience. If you like this show, if you enjoy it, and I'll remind you again at the end, please like, love, laugh, and share it. It really helps. That's what makes a difference to me. I'm in it for you and communicating with you guys. Oh, and comment, too. So if you have something to say, if you think something's funny, if you have a question for me or Ed, just jump in there. All right, so without further ado, let's get into the Dystopia Report.
Air horns.
Yes. I have some good ideas for Dystopia Report intros. I'm actually going to animate that thing. And sometimes the only way to win a game is to like, share, and subscribe. All right.
Little pause there.
All right, so some interesting news. I'm leaning with tech. It could have gone either way. Today's dystopias tech, Corona, and science. I could have led with any of the three. They're all got some equally important stories. But I'm going to lead with tech because we've got two SCOTUS stories today in tech. So SCOTUS is, of course, the Supreme Court of the United States. And the Supreme Court of the United States has now said APIs are APIs. Yay! We don't have to like come up with a new abstraction that also means APIs because that would be ridiculous. And apparently Oracle didn't know that was ridiculous. So Oracle had sued the world, including Google, for violating something with Java. I don't know. And it involved them being mad that people were using Java and not paying for licenses. But they weren't really using Java. They were just using the API, which was a standard. So how is that going to work? Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of confusion. You know, many people don't understand technology. I mean, look at the Zuckerberg trials. You're still at that level.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I mean, I'm really glad that the Supreme Court's kind of threw in there and threw their Technocrat creds on the table and said, APIs are APIs, dudes. You're going to completely disrupt the world economy if you change that. So, yeah, Oracle lost. Google won. And I'm not that I like one company or the other, but, you know, if you write a software library with the intent of either compiling or running virtual machines against it and write an API and someone else re-implements that API somewhere else, that's not their fault, right? Exactly. They didn't do anything wrong. That's the purpose of it, right? Anyway. So they lost. Yay! So also, SCOTUS has weighed in on Section 230. So this is a pretty big one. There's been a lot of contention about Section 230 out there. A lot of people bickering about it. I actually follow one of the guys that wrote the Section 230 section of the law. I think it was the Internet Communications and Decency Act, which tells you how horribly misnamed laws are. And he didn't like what they said, but I don't actually agree with him. I think the Supreme Court ruling was sufficiently moved the scope up to where it's supposed to be, and basically said, yeah, these guys are utilities. It wasn't a ruling. It was a statement. It was a statement as part of another ruling that didn't necessarily make this final as case law, but they're basically saying which way they're going to go. And they're utilities, so they shouldn't be censoring people, especially not active politicians or likely political candidates. So yeah, this is going to go really wrong for all the companies and people, the people advocating for this, the people benefiting from it, and the people all the people who are going to who are betting their companies on this being okay. You know, I heard a really great, there's a podcast called The Lotus Eaters. They had a really great take on this, which is basically what the relationship should be considered as, because then there'd be plenty of case law to help you along with it, is on Facebook, it's a tenant-landlord relationship. They're the landlord, you're the tenant. You have some rights. You know, you don't have no rights. Right? They can't just throw you out in the street. Now, granted, you're not going to die because you lost your Facebook account, but maybe you will if your business depends on it. You know? Yeah. So, I mean, you know, I can't see the argument against SCOTUS's take on this. What do you think?
I had a case recently where someone got their Instagram account hacked, and they get 90% of their work from there. And, you know, it was just weeks of trying to get it back. Oh, so, man. Yeah, turning off a social media account. I mean, so imagine if it happened to LinkedIn or any Facebook account. You've invested tons of money in advertising it. Yeah, it's
energy,
a big deal.
time, you know. I mean, you know, if I worked out my hourly rate and then I was able to bill them for it, they would owe me a lot, you know. So, you know, part of that's my fault, granted. You know, they do make it fun, and it's fun to just, you know, spar with people and learn things. And
sure, but I mean, consider so many people invest though in social media advertising, and the account could just disappear for any good reason.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So to me, the sanest strategy right now is just to like put some eggs in every basket. You know, I don't trust one company, and then you minimize the damage. But basically, these companies are putting their customers in a situation where they're like, I'm going to devalue you as my as my business partner because I can't trust you. That's not good for economics. Yeah.
I will say one thing. There's a solution I've been working on. I've been talking with Paul Rubel and my attorney and some other folks that trademarking your name, and if there is ever an advertising, trademarking your name will give you the best chance of getting you that URL back or disputing that,
Yeah, I like it. Holy cow, I think you just sold me right now. That's
yeah,
that's
I mean, I'm working on it, and I think that anybody who is worried about investing in social media advertising and having their Instagram just shut down for months without cause should consider trademarking their name,
Yeah, that's excellent. And actually, it's funny. That's kind of trademarks need to be aggressive. The downside of trademarks is you're in it. Once you register the trademark, you got to defend it from everything. Everything
Sure.
you're aware of, you have to defend it from. So,
but it's better than being shut down and losing an investment.
yeah, well,
and
better
then
a little
over 2 or
money at
3
a
months.
time than a lot at once, and then you're screwed. Yeah. So, and then you have no recourse. So, I agree. Yeah, that's a great strategy. I've been looking
especially companies have been around 20, 30 years. They don't realize that they're not in tech. But for that reason alone, to protect your social media interests,
Yeah, I've been looking at like poison well strategies too in general. I've been thinking a lot about how to put copyrighted material out there with very express terms, and it won't necessarily help when you're entering into a social media agreement, but it sure as heck will help with the web search engines. They don't ask; they just check your stuff out. Right?
Sure.
And I shouldn't have to put an opt-out file on my server to get you guys to not go on there. So you stole my copyrighted material. You shouldn't have done that. If they want to play dirty, let's play dirty. All right. So enough of the dirty pool. How about or the not so dirty pool? I also got I have some really good news in tech, and this is actually personal. I discovered this myself, although it's been out for about a month. But if you weren't having this problem, if you didn't have this equipment, you wouldn't know about it. So I reported on Oculus Quest 2 when it came out.
I have one.
You have one? Okay. Have you used it in the last month?
I'm in the Google paintbrush all day. It's great.
Really? Okay, cool. So you actually know what I'm going to say. What happened a month ago? So Virtual Desktop got the official licensed version of Virtual Desktop, which is an app which enables you to run non-Facebook programs on your Quest,
Oculus,
on your Oculus Quest 2. You used to have to sideload it to get it to run things that were outside of Facebook, and they change it so it's actually just all you have to do is just to download, and then you just run that app, another app, and whatever app from, say, Steam, whatever VR app, and it'll work. So
just back up out of that conversation for a bit. So up until the Facebook Oculus 2, you always had to plug a cable in. The Oculus 2 is completely wireless.
Yes.
But in order to download apps that aren't part of that download of the Oculus 2 world, you can plug it in and get access to other, I forgot what websites that allow you to get beyond what's on that store. But now that's expanded tremendously.
Right.
I have to say that the $300 Oculus you can buy just about anywhere with 64 megs can give you the maximum experience. It's incredible.
Yeah. I mean, you have to spend $1,000 to get an equivalent wireless rig from another manufacturer. So, and I had reported on that, but I advised people, get this, I figured out a cool hack. So I had told people, I'm like, okay, buy it retail, get an extended warranty. If Facebook locks you out, you just return it. Doesn't work. I wonder if people did it. I hope they did. Please, Marty, I hope they did it. Facebook got woke up, right?
I don't know. Well, I guess got to say, if you are a user, the guy in my office, Marty, came up with a great thing. So he has glasses. There's a website that you can put your specific eye lens dimensions, and for $100 they'll send you lenses you pop in to give you perfect vision in those Oculus 2s.
Awesome.
Highly recommend.
So
that,
I have used both of my kids have Oculus Quest 2s.
Yeah.
I do not, although I have used theirs and I've used our PS4 VR. So I have some cross. Oculus. Actually, the specs on Oculus are pretty up. They're equivalent to $1,000 headsets. And it looked like Facebook's plan was to sell it as a loss leader.
Yeah.
Like, look, we're just gonna push this junk out there, and then we'll make it up on games. But everyone's like, I'm not gonna touch this. Facebook's gonna ban me. I'm gonna lose all my software. But now, since you're buying your software maybe through Steam or something else, Facebook can't ban you, and all you do is lose your hardware, which is a much better deal. And you can still do that warranty trick. So think about it.
Yeah. I don't know about you if you tried the Darth Vader battles, but my friend kept telling me about it. So when I finally met Darth Vader for the first time, it's really an incredible feeling, And we have to talk about a little trick. I think that if you're on this page, I've been experimenting heavily. So there's a little trick in this particular world
with what?
that people aren't aware of.
Yeah.
So, and this is serious, actually.
Okay.
But I was able to get extreme light in the Oculus. I turn off all the lights, and I bought an infrared light that you put outside in the parking lot to make the cameras louder. That makes the Oculus significantly better on tracking, and the light is incredible.
Really?
So people don't know about this yet. But if you buy a $30 to $50 infrared light that you use to extend night vision cameras,
right,
it will make the Oculus 2 enhanced even further. So I literally set up in the backyard, put the light up, and get
awesome.
significantly better traction from infrared light instead of regular light.
So if you don't know, the Oculus 2 is not an augmented reality setup, but it does have cameras on it. And it was creepy, actually. I went to my son's room, and he's on his Oculus, and he's like, I'm having trouble. And I'm like, okay, let me put it on. And I put it on, and his room is like daylight. It was pitch black in his room. I'm like, when I walked in there, I'm tripping over stuff. I'm like, how do you see it here? He has it's like infrared. It just totally sees everything just fine, like as if the lights were all on. So, yeah, that's a great tip. I hadn't, now I want to go buy one. Well, now keep in mind what's going to happen. I have to spend more money.
They're called infrared lights. In about a year, they'll be 3 times the price and called VR. It's enhanced lights.
Right. Yeah, I already have some infrared sources at home, so I could just, I could just wait till one of them go to sleep, but I'll probably get my own because then Facebook will kick me off with my luck. They'll be like, Dad,
And I just want to say that not to advertise, but this Wise Cam right here.
Yeah.
Is $30, and it's the most incredible night vision. It's the first camera that I've seen that's under $50. It just somehow does color night vision.
Really?
Excellent device. Highly recommend it.
Nice. Yeah, that's cool. I'll check that out. Well, man,
that's the Wise Cam. I highly recommend this brand. No cost. It's one of the best brands I think in security cameras. Of course, they're watching you from the government overseas, but I don't mind.
Yeah, whatever. You just, you show them the good stuff, right? Here's what you need to see, right? I always keep my intrusive spy tech segmented according to what the propaganda I want to feed them.
Hey, listen, maybe the Chinese government in the future will be like, call me up and be like, listen, we've been watching you talk to your wife. Why don't you say this instead of that?
Don't do that. I'm drinking coffee.
If you're gonna watch me in the cameras, can I have some free consultation at the end, please? Listen. Your kid's been picking his nose while you're not paying attention.
Right. Could you just turn around when you scratch your crack? We don't really want to. Yeah. All right. So.
Because I noticed on one of the hacker calls from my clients, right?
Ooh,
so I think Paul had this happen too. The hacker was actually fixing the desktop in order to hack it properly.
Well,
that's happened to me several times. I think it happened to Paul Trapani. someone he knew, the hacker was fixing the computer in order to hack it properly in a few minutes, and he caught it just in time.
Wow, that's really funny.
So these hackers have to now do good in order to proceed with their bad.
That's the nice thing about the modern cyber warfare on the internet is that, if you just leave your front door open, eventually someone fortifies your house. Of course, they're in there with you now, but, I'm sure they're nice.
Well, I guess that's what happened in wartime. Soldiers come into your house, it's right, but you're also getting protection.
Yeah. Until they decided that's the next target, and your house gets leveled. That's no big deal.
I've seen some movies about that. Yeah.
Okay. So next news item. And by the way, place your bets on whether we're actually going to get out of Dystopia Report or if we're just going to talk about the news the whole time. And that's fine. That's totally cool. I love this. Some guests need to warm up. And that's one of the reasons I do this. This is like, some people sit there stone cold watching the news, and some people will just be
I'm very shy, so thank you. I know.
And you're so boring and you have no insights. You don't know anything about tech. Yeah. It's terrible talking to you.
I'm annoying.
I can't believe I had you on the show. Thank you so much for coming on. This is awesome.
This is the first time,
Yeah.
Probably why I was hired in government, because I'm so freaking annoying.
Well, all right. So let's get into the next item. Is no tiers for Starlink. So I don't know if you know what Starlink is, but Starlink is SpaceX's satellite internet program, and
yes.
There's been several kind of delayed announcements have been going around. One is that it looks like they're going to geo-lock you, which is extremely disappointing, because if you're one of the many snowbirds on the road, or one of the many people who are professional but permanently working from home, you could have theoretically worked from anywhere because you would have had good internet anywhere, but now they're geo-locking. It may be just a test thing, so hopefully they'll stop that. But as of right now, the Starlinks are geo-locked. And there is no way to pay to get a better tier, so you're not geo-locked, which is leading us into this story. No tiers for Starlink. As of right now, it's just $4.99 to get in, $99 a month, or it's not for you. So kind of a bummer. It would have been nice. I would have paid more for a static IP tier and for non-geo-locked, but that would have been extremely valuable, but apparently they're not.
What do you mean by the geo-lock? How does that work exactly?
So it has a GPS unit in the satellite. So when you first register, it gives you a range of, I don't know, half mile, a mile, 2 miles. And as long as you're within that range, you're in the same location. You try to move outside of that range, it just shuts itself off. So I think one of the reasons they're doing that is so that they can, so they don't have to triage and lower bandwidth to particular satellites, because I think the geological locations correlate to satellites. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, but, I understand it's an expensive proposition to let people move around, but no amount of money is enough? None? You can't tell me if Musk has an RV that he doesn't have, that he doesn't have a non-geo-locked Starlink on the roof. Come on, man. I just don't buy it. So it's fair, but less useful. Maybe that's
I don't know. We'll see how it works. They probably just want more money. It's some kind of deal to open up different regions. It's probably a business thing, man.
Yeah. I think it's probably just I'm sure it's not just a matter of throwing more satellites up there, right? They may not be approved to get more. There may be a long, arduous process. I could understand why they may be hardware limited. They may be planning on unlocking. It's all going to be software updates, just like everything that the Tesla family does. So the Tesla family of companies. So they may plan on changing it in the future, but as of right now, don't plan anything that moves around. Also in a similar electric car kind of slant, GM announced that their Chevy electric Silverado pickup truck, which will be out next year, will have 400-mile range. So early next year it'll be out. Yeah, so that's a pretty good range. So now Ford's the gauntlet's been thrown, so now Ford's got to step up. They kind of had to with the Cybertruck anyway, but...
Yeah. You like it? Do you like the Cybertruck? I like the way it looks. A lot of people say weird things. I like it.
I don't need a pickup, so I don't want to pay $100,000. I have a truck already, so I don't need 2 trucks. I need a mall crawler. That's going to be the electric. But I mean,
I'm trying to justify why I need a pickup, so
if I had one car, that might be it. Yeah. You know, the problem is I'm not planning on buying a Tesla because I want to be able to buy parts and fix my own stuff. And Tesla requires an authorized retailer for all kinds of things. I'm actually seriously considering buying Ford Mach-E. So because Ford will sell you parts, so I don't have to, I don't have to be treated like a criminal because I went with the wrong company. But
I gotta tell you, man, I drive an Infiniti, and I just got the new Toyota RAV4. Gotta tell you, that RAV4 is fairly inexpensive. It's a fabulous truck for the money.
Right.
So you can just grab a lease and not really worry about cars anymore. I don't know. I just think
so
around here the roads are so, obviously the government's maintained the roads so well on Long Island.
So, it sounded like I was going to fall into China. Last pothole I hit.
Yeah. Well, no, just make sure bring the fishing pole. In case you get stuck, you could.
Make sure to bring a harpoon gun with one of those with your white gator on it, so people know you need help, and to shoot it out from inside the pothole once you're falling in. Help me! One of the problems I had this problem for a long time, and all my cars are currently hardened against remote attack. You cannot hack my cars. I'm probably the only person. It will be very, very entertaining if we ever are. We will be. I think it's just a matter of time.
How did you protect your car from hacking? I don't get it. How did you protect your car?
Two of them are too old. Well, one of them's a
20. Oh, well, that's it easy. I got one from 75.
2003's just got an ECU for the engine, right? And the 2014 doesn't have a CAN bus. It's a van, so it's like one of the last vehicles that didn't have a CAN bus from that time period. And the 2013 wall crawler, I actually went in and Faraday caged the telematics unit.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean,
Faraday
dude, I don't do tinfoil hats except that. That is going to happen. It is going to make every politician in office at the time look like chumps when it happens, because people have warned about it. Did you hear about the DARPA thing? So DARPA actually, the DARPA car hacking thing.
Yes, I have. Please discuss it. That's a good conversation, and it leads into something else I'm working on.
Right. Oh, cool. Okay. I actually, like ages ago, I only know about it because DARPA basically sent out the red flag and said, "Hey guys, this is dangerous." DARPA decided to do a PR. This is for the audience. Ed knows what's going on. Did a PR thing where they basically put up a bounty and said anybody who can hack a car to show people that this can be done will get this money. And someone came and claimed it. And CAN buses are. A CAN bus is a token ring network, and it is a modified manufacturing bus with almost no security built into it whatsoever. Cars will typically have between 20 and, even 50 computers now. I'm hearing really high numbers lately. And if you hack into any of those computers, including the ones that are connected to the internet, then you can own that car. And once you own one module on the CAN bus, you can own all the other modules. Well, guess what controls everything in your car, from your seatbelt tension to your horn, to your gas pedal, to your brake pedal, to your steering. Everything in a 2021 car is controlled electronically. A hacker can take over your car and do whatever they want to you, freeze you, cook you, drive you into a wall, park you wherever they want to park you. It is a huge target for a terrorist attack.
I hate to say it this way, but if you take additional insurance out and it happens to you, it could really work in your favor. Just saying.
Or you could just not. I mean, I guess it's silly. It's so bad that it's to the point where it's like, look, I understand if somebody's setting up roadside devices to hack into the Bluetooth on your tires or something, your Bluetooth transceiver in your car, that's kind of unstoppable. But you also need to physically be there. The cops can get involved in stuff. If it's the internet, permanently internet connected module in your car, and someone hacks it they could hack it from another country. They could hack it from anywhere in the world, and they could hack not just your car, but every car in your city. You know, at least of that make and model, if not that make, if not every car in the city. So, I mean, that thing, Fast and the Furious is a really goofy series, but that Fast and the Furious 7, where they took over a city to get the nuclear football, that's real, man. That can really happen. So that's my rant. Anyway, so what was your?
Am I allowed to
What's
go
up, Lori?
outside of my cabin with the phone and show something?
Yeah, whatever. As long as it's not something that's going to get us taken down. Whose is it?
No. It's the so 2 or 3 years ago, the power company came and put that special sensor in my house that reports back to them what the status is. Some people came to my house and they immediately started feeling something weird and getting sick. So my brother turned me onto this special cage that I put over it. And when I tested it with my special meter, which I can show you, 1 second, I have a special meter device that allows me to test the level of all kinds of magnetic, electronic interference. And I got significantly 400 or 500% less interference when I put the special thing over what Lilko insisted that I had. Can I show it to you?
Yeah, please.
All right, 1 second here.
All right, we're going for a walk, people. I'm going to do the next.
I'll
do the next news segment as you set up. So
I'm right here. It takes 2 seconds.
Oh, okay.
So
what? How are we outside
notice,
already?
If you notice, I put a special cage over this meter.
I thought you were in the woods. Sorry.
And when I test it, with the magnetic electron, it significantly lowers what it is. Now, this is required to be installed by the Long Island Power Authority, and it's giving out some strange electromagnetic fields that aren't there.
So you put a Faraday cage around the meter.
Correct.
Wow.
Now,
and is that an approved thing, or you just bought it and put it on there?
Yes, they've serviced it, and they don't care because the workers themselves have noticed the same problem.
What?
So I recommend going online and buying this and putting it over the required meter.
Paranoid enough. You do not need to make me worse.
What?
That is crazy, man.
Well, again, you're learning on this show, right? So
yeah,
it's important, man. I just want to show you something else.
Yeah, I'm really glad you showed it to me because I might have thought you were BSing if you just told me.
Here it is without one, right? And the signatures coming out of my meter are significantly different.
All right, if you get cancer in the 2 minutes that thing's off, it's not my fault.
I hear you. I find all that so extremely interesting, and I think that everyone should have a meter like this.
How much does that cost, and where can you get it?
Well, again, I obviously buy all the expensive stuff, so you don't have to buy a crazy one like this.
Yes, I do.
But yeah, that's a couple of $100 on Amazon, and it allows you to drive around and see really incredible results about where frequency is in your house.
So I have a dumb, cheap version of that just measures any RF coming, and that's what I use to make sure that my Faraday cage was working in my car. And of course, I also tested the same Faraday cage with an actual cell phone to make sure it couldn't, because all the cars use cell signals. But that's crazy. And Lori, so yes, there is some rumors going around that it is cancer-level RF emissions. Although I will say this, in general, RF tends to be inverse. Inverse square law. So as you get proportionally further away from it, like each distance you get away from it, it drops by 3/4. So like it's no big deal if you're on the sidewalk. One of those things on side of someone's house isn't going to give you cancer on the sidewalk, but it might give you cancer in your house, especially if your computer's right on the other side of the wall. So or something where you're sitting there all the time.
One of the most interesting things is not necessarily in your house, but if you drive around with it around town, and all of a sudden the thing is pinning out through the ceiling. You're like, what the heck is over here? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's a few spots on my route to work that happens. So.
Yeah, if you feel like doing some kind of crazy $1 million, yes, Laurie, that's probably what you would be able to sue them for. Unlike the pharmaceuticals, which you can't sue. Yeah, and also another fun experiment you can do is walk around, drive around with an RFID meter. And, you know, people are scanning for RFID tags all the time. So if you're leaving your Easy Pass in your windshield, it's not just the government tracking you, dude. It's whoever wants to spend $40 on an RFID reader. Think about that. You know, put that thing in a bag, man. Mylar bags are the best. The ones the hard drives come in, you got them in your house already, unless you threw them out. Because, you know, don't do that. But
look. I called the Federal Trade Commission after several hundred complaints on their website and phone calls, and I just said, I have one question. We had a very nice conversation with the supervisor over there, and I said, look, I put in hundreds of complaints for me and my clients, and she goes, well, thank you. I guess we need stuff in our database. And I said, well, how do you work on it? What do you do with that aggregated data? She's like, we have no jurisdiction. We do nothing with it. All we can do is recommend something. So if we ask you a couple of questions, we'll give you the recommendation. So I played along with a particular hack I was dealing with, which is a wonderful story. I can't wait to tell it later, actually.
okay.
I'm the guinea pig inside of a hack, which is this really awesome story. And
A guinea pig story
and
cannot
she said,
go wrong.
I'm sorry. She says, I'm sorry. We only documented and we do nothing. And at the end, she told me her advice is to not click on bad things and get an antivirus. She referred me to the ICS.
That's the advice.
To the ICS3 page, where also I've made my complaints. But in the ICS3, no one will answer your call. So when it comes,
So I have something I want to say about. Maybe originally I was thinking about this just for cars, but since we're having this conversation, maybe this is something that should be true for any internet-connected device, right? I think there should be a law in the books where there is a physical tactile switch that you can have, that you must install on every internet-connected device. That when you flip that switch off, the RF stops. Period. End of discussion. That would solve the terrorism problem. That would solve this. Is this thing giving me cancer problem? It would solve everything. Worst case, what would Con Ed have to do? Ring your doorbell, so could you flip the switch, please? Flip the switch, let them read it, flip it back off. Why the hell do they need to be able to read it 24/7 as they run past your house? Ridiculous.
so airplane mode on a extreme
Airplane
level.
mode, a legally mandated airplane mode on anything doing wireless transmission. You know, I don't know. Why is this not obvious to everyone? I mean,
Go talk to Albany. Be your legislator. I'll go with you. We'll drink some
right.
beers. We'll talk to the legislature.
I'm in road trip, dude. Let's do it. I'm ready. I'm ready to have mean arguments with people that just want me to go away because they want to go home for the day.
You know, we'll go and have this discussion. We're two techie guys. Like, hey, man, you know.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. You can do a lot if you just buy someone a coffee and act friendly, right?
Yeah. Everybody wants
that's
to go
like
up
the
there
whole
and
show.
fight with the legislature.
That's my whole show. You just buy someone a coffee. Well, you're not here, but if you were here, I'd buy a coffee. Whoops, sorry.
But
I kicked my water.
listen, I saw at the
was my
legislature,
fault.
people came up there and made all these speeches and like, just go up there and talk what you mean and it'd be done, you know?
Yep. Yeah. We got another comment, Laura Nickel. Wow, that's gold. That's gold advice. She earns her money. Yeah. Well, bureaucracy is the same the world over, and that's why I'm an individualist, man. I mean, I used to identify more as a libertarian, but there's just problems, There's some holes in libertarianism. It can get out of control. So tragedy of the commons is real. We do share resources, and libertarians don't always know how to deal with that. So, all right. So that's that for that. Oh, I have thanks, by the way, Steve, for chiming in last week and giving us a story on LG. I have an update on that. So LG is not making cell phones anymore. They just announced it last week.
I think I gave you that update.
You gave it. No, well, you gave me the LG update, but there's another update from your update. Yeah, so thanks for the initial update.
I'm saying I gave you an update like this weekend for it.
Yeah, there's another one.
Oh.
There's another one too. So they're saying 3 years. If you buy a current LG phone, they're going to update you. They'll be willing to update you for up to 3 years. So and all I got to say is, don't you threaten me with a good time. I am so sick of automatic updates on my phones. I would much rather have a phone that can't be automatically updated. So I might go buy an LG phone.
The thing is that people don't realize is like LG, how hard of a player they were in the industry and how much people just kind of shit on them for like doing good things.
Yeah.
Like let's be real here, right? They made the first ever QHD display in a smartphone. Mm-hmm. They did they released the first smartphone with the dual core processor.
Yeah.
They are the only phone that exists with not only a headphone jack but a quad DAC and an amp powerful enough to power 600 ohm headphones, which are big chunguses.
Yeah.
They're they make these screens in most iPhones and Galaxy devices.
Right.
They make the AMOLED screens for those devices to be used.
Nice.
And they've done so much other stuff. I mean, even like their newest phone, the LG Wing that they did, the crazy one with the screens flipped sideways.
Yeah.
Yeah, people looked at like the amount of work that went into that thing and like how well it works. Like I was just writing it off because no headphone jack or anything. But if you look at that thing, like, it is so brilliantly well thought out, and every single issue you could think of, they thought of and they solved it.
I don't want to sound like a Also, I don't even know what it means.
They made the first ever widescreen camera in the smartphone, and they were the first smartphone to include all 3 camera modules on the back, which is wide, telephoto, and standard.
I cannot believe the level of competence and amazing stuff that comes out of South Korea in general. South Korea is a rockin' place, and I think it's on my top 10 list of places to go visit because they really have they have an amazing culture, they have amazing martial arts, and they have amazing industry. South Korea is awesome. So anyway, but also LG is awesome. And it sucks that they're going to be out of the business. Although you never know, they may jump back in. It's not like LG's going out of business.
Yeah, and they might jump back in, but they're reallocating their resources elsewhere because they were just losing so much money. But like the thing is that like really pisses me off is that so many people just wrote them off like they were nothing when meanwhile their innovations were used in every other smartphone around.
So I think they had
find one major flagship smartphone that doesn't have a wide angle camera.
So I think that they had a branding problem with.
And they do make nice chicken.
They make nice chicken. Thank you. You're right. I think they had a branding problem. Not South Koreans. LG had a branding problem with appliances. They really succeeded in the appliance market, and that actually hurt them in the smartphone because people are like, "Oh, that's the appliance. I don't want my refrigerator company making my cell phone."
Their issue is that they were actually trying. No, because LG, think about the Envy and the Chocolate and all those phones that were like massive.
I'm not saying it's rational.
I'm
saying it affects me.
I'm saying like the issue is that they did the same exact style marketing for their smartphones as they did for their refrigerators. That's the issue.
Well, no, but we're both right because they needed to separate it from that. They needed to be like the latest in tiny circuitry. It's itty bitty. It's teeny weeny. It's nothing like your refrigerator. They needed to do that. Or some variation of that. So I don't know. It seems like a shame they could have solved this with. So many people just need good marketing people to help them.
Oh no, rest in peace is my favorite smartphone manufacturer. But they did say they're going to keep selling smartphones until they run out of inventory. So
right, well, that's good.
Good, that's good.
So
the maximizing how to track individuals, very nice.
Well,
the better the smartphone, the better they know every little detail.
So there is a Linux phone out there. Actually, I forgot to write it. I'm an idiot because I should have known this was going to come up. There is a Linux phone out there that is retail. It's about $1,000. It's about a generation behind, as you would expect from a typical $1,000 phone, but it's still very good. Quad core, nearly comparable RAM, nearly comparable display. So if you really want to get away from this stuff and you just need your phone to do stuff like email, contacts, web browsing, the stuff that I actually use my phone for, except for, of course, picture this, then maybe you should check that out. I really thought when I got I got a bleeding edge phone, and I thought I was going to be doing all this cool, gadget, the latest apps and following the trends, and no, it's nothing like that. By the way, last tech item, Spotify has now removed at least a couple of dozen of Joe Rogan's old podcasts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so Joe had explicitly said this was not going to happen when he joined up with Spotify, who of course gave him a huge pile of money. So I don't know if he can back out. I mean, how do you pay that back, right? But yeah, it looks like they're reneging. The people inside, the company workers inside of Spotify are mad, and they were threatening to strike, and Spotify reacted to placate them and basically reneged on at least Rogan's, if not Spotify's, promises to the public.
Wow.
So this is a good warning. This is what I was saying about putting your eggs in lots of baskets, and maybe trademark yourself too. Because,
right.
Although that wouldn't have helped him, because I'm sure he would have signed whatever contract they wrote up for. When you spend $100 million on a podcaster, you're probably going to make an ironclad contract. So I'm sure it's not going to be trademark. Wouldn't have gotten him out of it. But
yeah, no, you got to go back to the roots where you have your own website, your own channel, and try to get people away from social media. And like the old eBay, you do one transaction on eBay, the rest you do privately with the user.
Right.
And I think that's where it's got to go.
Too.
Joe's got to just call people in.
It's just a payment to a friend.
His show, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And you know what? I think people are so hungry for Web 3.0. They are done with centralization of metadata. I mean, they're just, I'm ready. I'm so ready. I'm ready to make all kinds of crazy sacrifices to do anything I can help. Give them money, give them time, give them, some of my social currency. Lori had a comment. LG sells well over here. Yeah, I bet so Australia is popular with LG, huh? Yeah, it was pretty popular over here too, although not with the clicky crowds. The clicky crowds, it was all Samsungs and Apples. Those are the two. And I mean, even if you go into a Target in the United States in New York, they have the iPhone section, an even bigger Samsung section, and a tiny little section for everything else.
Yeah, and even if you leave iPhone and Samsung, the big players are like Google with the Pixel, or like if you're trying to get like the techies, is OnePlus.
One of the things that Samsung may have done right here is they have an extensive collection of smartwatches. So I think people may have been like, "Oh, I might do it later," but never did. But they bought the phone anyway.
Well, they're finally making them with Android Wear, but they used to be all Tizen, and I just can't stand Samsung's operating system.
I agree with you. I'm not that. I don't hate it because the phone's so freaking fast. It's just mind-numbingly fast. And of course, anything you want to do, it's available. But at the same time,
it's just
I don't love it.
It doesn't make sense. Why do you need 16 gigs of RAM in a smartphone?
I have an answer to that, but unfortunately, I didn't have time to set it up properly. But I am going to do a tech demo next show. So if you're waiting for that, check it out. Just a quick little 15-minute thing. That's
going to play Cyberpunk on his Galaxy S10.
No, I'm not going to do that. But yeah, just a little teaser. So come and check that out if you're interested. All right, let's get on to Corona report, or at least the Corona section of the Dystopia report. So apparently the UK government was going on a tear. In the UK, they're having problems with freedom of speech laws. You can't just say anything there. You have to be careful what you say, and it was kind of being used against people. People were getting the usual thing when they were complaining that they thought maybe a vaccine passport was coming in the UK, and they were being called conspiracy theorists, and you're making that up as long as a year ago. Well, it leaked. Apparently, the government was planning a COVID passport all along. So they were not conspiracy theorists, or at least as far as they were dead bang on right. So this should be a lesson to you. If you're, I don't know, you're probably not thinking this way anyway if you made it this far into my show. But yeah, holy cow. I mean, the UK was plotting against its citizens and mocking the people who accused it of that, and then they got caught doing it. Whatever. Anyway.
Yeah, that's kind of, there's a lot to be said about, the abuses that a government globally can, weaponize certain situations.
Well, in the United States, so the next news item is the United States, of course, has a little bit freer speech than England. We don't have the same. It's not as easy to go after someone for disparaging them here. There are less hate speech kind of laws on the books here than there are there. There are some, but they're very limited. But the social pressure in this country, in the United States, save Prince Harry. Yeah, I heard about that meme. The limited restrictions on speech in the United States managed to gel the anti-passport, the anti-COVID passport movement, I guess, enough that the president gave in and has announced that they have no plans at this time, which could just be them putting it off to later until the heat dies off a little bit. But I'm really glad about this. As we've discussed extensively on this show, I had no problem if you get vaccines. I actually plan to get vaccinated. I'm not planning on getting vaccinated with one of the ones that's out right now. And it's reasonable to think that there are unanswered questions about the vaccines that are out right now. This is not a polio vaccine that's been out for 60 years, right? Yes, I laughed at the people who were mad about that too. Yeah, I have heard about Thermosol and I'm worried about that too. But the overall net was good. A lot of this stuff is really new, and let's get into that. So AstraZeneca has now suspended a trial involving minors. They were doing a minor trial in Europe, and the AstraZeneca is not available here in the United States, but it was available in Europe. And apparently the blood clots were considered deadly enough. They suspended the whole youth trial for AstraZeneca. And no, that's the only one for AstraZeneca this week. So also, 62 million doses of Johnson & Johnson have been recalled and are not going to be usable, according to the Times. So, Johnson & Johnson's another one of the vaccines that's, again, not available here.
What happened to those vaccines? Any idea what caused that?
Well, the funny thing is we covered this last week, and it was only 11 million. Now it's 62 million. So whatever they found wrong.
Johnson.
What?
I got the Johnson & Johnson.
So whatever was wrong with the first batch, maybe wrong with more of them. How did you get the Johnson & Johnson?
They got the Johnson & Johnson, one shot.
I know, but where? In this country?
Yeah.
I didn't even know it was approved in this country. Okay, well, hopefully to just out him. Well, he may have done what a lot of people were doing, and this one's.
I think he got it through his job.
Yeah, he got it through. That might be why. It might be an international thing. So apparently, early on, this is some CBS News. A lot of rich people were using the Florida lack of requirements for documentation to cut the line. So people were flying their private jets into Florida and getting vaccines. So a lot of the wealthier people have already gotten vaccinated. So, which I'm beginning to wonder if they might regret. They might not like what the outcome is. Anyway, so here we go. I warned you. I hate to say I told you so again, but I told you so. NYU and the NIH, or the National Institute of Health, if you don't know who that is, are chiming in a paper on ADE. And it turns out that they think that ADE is dangerous enough with current vaccines that disclaimers should be warranted for anyone who gets a vaccine. You should have to acknowledge a disclaimer that ADE is potentially dangerous. What? That's not good. You know, it's NYU too. It's not even just NIH in some small school. So
yeah, but look, there's such a mad rush. There's people who have 7 browsers open at the same time to as quickly as possible get immunized. Yet when you get immunized, you still have to wear the mask and the rest of it. You know. You know,
I understand it's very frustrating that you have to wear a mask after you've been immunized. I understand that. Throw everything, we've got it kind of mentality, which I would be fine with if I didn't feel that the vaccines were unduly dangerous, you know. And so the vaccine that I'm waiting for is the hold on a second, I think I have it here. I do, the Novavax. So the Novavax is actually going to. They just expanded the Novavax trials in the UK and South Africa. And they're expecting a ruling from the FDA on an emergency authorization in May. So, and the reason I like Novavax and the reason I think it's different than the other ones is because the other ones are RNA vaccines, and ADE is an RNA vaccine specific problem. The one that they just announced.
Plus, Novavax sounds so cool.
Novavax, well, it's an American company. That's why. So it's up in Maryland, and they're actually a startup. And a lot of, Pfizer and Moderna are old. But Novavax.
I'm gonna wait for the Metallica vax. I heard that one sounds really cool.
Just be careful you don't get the social media version where they start playing elevator music over you rocking out.
Oh man,
you heard about that?
It did.
Yeah,
by
Twitch.
accident, everything sounds like elevator music is one of the effects.
That would be the worst vaccine ever. Oh. We got a comment from Lori. Has anyone over there been getting blood clots from the vaccine? So the one that's mainly known for blood clots is the AstraZeneca, Lori, and it's been banned in a whole bunch of European countries. Basically, they're dead in the water, which is a shame because they're the one that interfaces the best with AIDS. So for people who have AIDS, that's the best vaccine for them. But, I mean, you know, if you're going to get a blood clot and die, it's not worth it. Yeah, so a lot of there is actually a couple of other negative items in here for that I did not write down and I did not do sources for on Corona, specifically for vaccines. I'm not going to talk about them, but I encourage people to go scour the news for negative news on vaccines. And,
what are the positives about taking the vaccine? I know there's a lot of negatives.
Well, they're all different. Positives? So one of the things that really drives me crazy is that nobody's talking about the differences between the vaccines, and that infuriates me. I mean, they're very different. You know, this Novavax is a traditional vaccine. It's a coronavirus with a piece of the dead new COVID-19 coronavirus grafted on it, and they do all the manufacturing of the dead viruses in their plant. And when you get your vaccine, you get a normal vaccine shot of inert viruses that your immune system then prototypes and then services your whole immune system. The other two, the Moderna and the Pfizer, the big ones in the United States, those two, and Johnson & Johnson, are all RNA vaccines. I think AstraZeneca is too. So all of them are RNA vaccines. Maybe AstraZeneca isn't. Let me
so is that like gene therapy? What do you mean?
Gene therapy.
Like
so basically what they're doing is they're using RNA, and there's a reason they're doing this. It's not just craziness. So they're coronaviruses normally, the problem with coronaviruses in our immune system is our immune system forgets them. Unlike some other viruses like chickenpox or smallpox, once you're immune, right? You're immune for life. Not with coronaviruses, our immune system forgets. So the idea with the RNA vaccine is your RNA will hijack some of your cells to produce dead versions of the virus, and then your immune system will keep retooling itself and observing. But the problem is there's so many different organs in our bodies, and this is probably the source of the ADA. There is some claims that the ADE was resolved. But basically, the consequence of ADE in the worst case is death. So it can kill you. So the cure may be worse than the disease if this goes bad. And the thing is, ADE doesn't even show up until a second infection.
Wow.
So you may get it. You might get it or not get it, but then you get the vaccine, and then some months pass, and then you get it, and then you were like, or you get a very mild case of it. Right, and it, or you don't even know you have it, but then you get exposed to it again. You get another big viral load, and you get it again, and then you get ADE, and then it can kill you. That's what I'm worried about, and that's why everyone's like, I don't know what you're talking about, tinfoil hat, and I'm like, yeah, you got to wait 6 months, man. There's a reason it was 8 years before, and that was even for the boring vaccine.
You have to understand. I mean, I realize the science part, and you and I are scientists, but the majority of others we interact with don't feel we're way too scientific or whatever it is. And when are you getting the vaccine? I mean, many people have asked me, I'm waiting my turn. I mean, I'm never the first at the buffet line. Well, I used to be, but not anymore. Like wait your turn. But it's a concern for many people about whether you're going to take it or not.
The thing I feel really bad for is the people who run to the fire. Those are the ones I think the government's not doing its job. The fact, if you just heard this conversation and you've never heard this before, like if no one allowed someone like me to just talk about that to that point, that's the government doing a bad job, I think. I really, I'm not anti-vax. I'm not. This is different. This is bad.
But I mean,
potentially
if you think about
it could be fine. It could turn out fine. I don't know, but I don't think they know either.
Yeah. I mean, just to look at even I mean, has the government done the right thing? I mean, it's a long conversation,
Right.
Not to go into the legalizing of marijuana, but if you look at that, for example, and that medication that they're describing that we all need, yeah, you know, it's how have they done with alcohol and the rest of it, you know?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about legalizing marijuana, and you know, so
you want to go there because it's again COVID vaccine, and now they all want us to smoke marijuana, so they keep recommending drugs to us now.
There's so many angles to attack the marijuana thing from. So
do you agree with the legalization of marijuana?
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
I do not.
Oh, okay, interesting. So
I look forward to having this discussion.
Yeah, this should be good. So I'm 100% for it, but I'm also 100% for people doing naked skydiving without a parachute. So
consider the possibility that right now marijuana is used by the people who really want it. It's an effort to go out and get it. Now, when it's commonplace, you know, everyone's going to try it. It's not for everyone, just like alcohol. It shouldn't be drank by everybody, and I don't know if everyone should be openly just trying it like that, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I understand.
And people don't realize the incarcerations, once legalized, are worse than the ones that are here now when it's not legal.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. And all right, so on that, I get the whole institutional racism, marijuana laws, institutional racism angle. And I don't necessarily think it's wrong. To me, there's tons of people who got, you know, maybe stopped on a BS stop, and you know, basically they were busted because they had a joint, and it's that may be very neighborhood or income dependent, and that bothers me. You know, that really bothers me. I really think that is what actual racism looks like. You know, there's a lot of people throwing the racism card at anything.
But hold on, consider this, right? So that same person in the poor community gets pulled over today, and they're smoking marijuana. Okay, you know, you're not supposed to be, but in the future, once marijuana is legal, and there's all kinds of laws about driving behind it, it could be 2 or 3 times the fine at that point.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and of course the problem is that it isn't the wild. So one of the things, actually, I think that marijuana law, federal marijuana law, is a good example of how science can be abused, because a lot of the science that was being pointed to about marijuana, I think, was overblown. Yes, it can be addictive. Anything can be addictive, and it is more addictive than just anything, right? It's like, you know, like if you like cupcakes or Doritos, you know, those are not going to be, they have slightly addictive properties because they taste good. You know, anything you enjoy is going to be slightly addictive. So, you know, but it's not as addictive as they made it out. It isn't cocaine. It isn't crack, you know, and that deception has created this, love it or hate it, that deception has created this situation where the states are basically completely rebelling against the federal government. This is a referendum on 2 things: federal power and states, you know, in other words, states' rights, and also on the morbid state of science, you know, and how politicians keep putting lab coats on, you know, and
yeah.
You know, and I say, now, I don't smoke it. I don't intend to smoke it. I would, if someone asked me, should I smoke it? I'd be like, no. If you even have to ask, don't. You know, but you know, it bothers me that people I care about were chased down for this stuff. I mean, when I was young, I did smoke it when I was underage. I'm not gonna lie, and I don't like it because it makes me stupid. And I like being smart. I like having smart conversations. So they're antithetical to each other. So,
well, I mean, consider also just police work. I just want to bring a couple of important points up about legalizing marijuana.
Sure.
I think it's going to ultimately create a very expensive product that could be used against people in the poor community with even more incarcerations. Currently, police work, right? So I'm friends with a lot of police officers. The ability to be able to walk up to somebody and, you know, be able to just look at them or use the marijuana to kind of inspect them is going to be lost. The chances of some careful criminal walking around that where the police in that region have been taking away their rights to even talk to somebody who could be smelling like that, it's going to make the area more dangerous. I think that legalizing marijuana is going to take something away from police work.
Right. Well, all right. So I had a great conversation with a cop. I have some friends who are cops, and and we were talking about like probable cause. Right. That's always the fun. That's always the fun conversation between troublesome teens and or at least ex-troublesome teens and cops. So and of course you don't. Probable cause is pretty easy to get. You don't necessarily need someone to smell like they just attacked a skunk to if you're for some bizarre reason you've never smelled marijuana, you will now, and that's pretty much what it basically smells like. It's wrestled a skunk.
So consider the following also, right? I mean, it's a mature product with a lot of specialists. One of the things they're saying in the legalization is they're going to regulate, and you're going to get a similar type of quality product across the board, as opposed to product fluctuations. But the result of that is going to be considerably more expensive product at a lower quality rate than you're getting today. And on top of that, the specialists who know the product, unless they apply for some license, will be hardened criminals. So think about what they're doing to that industry,
Yeah, well, also, but there's a flip side argument to that, which is prohibition makes awesome mafias.
Wait a minute. What has the American government done positive since prohibition? Alcoholism, family abuse, family neglect, death, disease, DWIs. So the government has handled alcohol properly since prohibition?
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely not. And I'm not even making the argument that I think all drugs should be legal. I just think that this one isn't that dangerous. I think that this one is. So here's my experience. Now, of course, I'm like older than Moses. So this is this experience is from the 80s and the early 90s. But I think from what I've seen. And actually, I know there's a couple of drug dealers wandering the streets in my area. So, because of course they come up to me because look at me, right? They're like, "Oh, look at Santa Claus. He wants to smoke a joint."
Well, I don't know. You always reminded me of like maybe one of James Hetfield's relatives or something, or his brother or something.
Yeah. So I definitely look like I belong in a group of people who are going to say, "Hold my beer, watch this," Yeah, which has worked to and against my advantage. But I segued too many times.
Marijuana, you wanted to talk about.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's almost like I smoked some. I wanted to talk about the fact that my experience when I was young is every time anybody wanted to do anything harder than marijuana, they called their pot dealer. Their pot dealer didn't sell it to them, but their pot dealer says, "Oh, I know a guy." Gave him a different phone number, and they called a different guy and got the harder stuff. It is definitely setting up a accessibility to a criminal underground, in my opinion.
Look, right, but that's happening because you are an addict of some kind, as opposed to going to a party smoking a little bit with your friends.
So is it the addiction or is it the network?
That person was going to go up the chain no matter what it was going to be.
Right. So you're arguing it's the addict. I'm arguing it's the network. In my case, it's definitely the network, right? Not having access to that other stuff is guarantees that I'm not really that addictive, it's like kind of like some comedians like to make that joke about what they let their pot dealer get away with because now they got to find another one if they tell them off, which they might not even be able to do because sometimes it's a turf thing, right? The problem of all criminal undergrounds is credibility, and so they always have this. They're always vying for looking more credible and having people interact with them in a interacting with them in a permission kind of way, right? And that's
right, but the U.S. government being the drug dealer and the U.S. government becoming the drug dealers instead of the drug dealers has not helped the problem.
Yeah, if you're saying are more people going to smoke pot, Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I might even do it once just to see if it affects me differently. As of this point, I don't plan on doing that because it's still illegal federally. Probably, I might just have to smoke one joint once to see if, as a scientist, like to see how it affects me differently. What? I see Steve's smiling. I'm being serious here, people. But only if federal law allows it because I work in IT. You know, sometimes you get jobs or you need to get security clearance for stuff. You know, it's still illegal federally. You're a criminal under federal law if you smoke pot. So
look at me, I'm mad. I want to get high for science.
I want to getting high for science. But I would probably just do it the one. I know I didn't like it that much. I don't like being out of control. Same reason I don't like drinking. You know, I like
you probably
have a
smoked
drink.
really bad stuff. That's all. You probably didn't get quality weed.
No. I mean, I had some. Well, that's another problem. So that's another argument on my side. Also, you know, there was that time with the lace stuff. Most people who did it more than a couple of times as a kid had that experience. You know, it wasn't nice. I didn't like it. It was worse than the bad parts of the other times. You know, so you know, if it's you have a neck to choke if it's a dispensary. You know, if it's a drug dealer, what are you going to do? You're going to break their knees? Good luck. I hope.
I don't know. You know that I
hope
really
you're Mel Gibson in Payback if you're going to try that.
If you look at addiction, what it all this means, it still comes down to feelings of loneliness and despair. And I think that really addiction, whether it's that, you can probably smoke and never get addicted or do other things. It's addiction. I don't believe is what we've been taught. There's a feeling of loneliness that causes all that. So we have to find other places to overcome that. Mm-hmm. And I think that once you overcome that, then weed can be legal when it's not used as a crutch like that. But
I agree with you. And I say choose awareness. Choose to be in the moment. Choose to be with the people around you. And but also at the same time, you know, if someone says the best way for me to do that is to smoke, I'm going to go, what do I know? You know, I don't know. I think not, but you go for it. You know, saying like I can't argue. It's almost like religion at that point. You know, I can't really argue with someone else's religion. You know, I can't.
I hear you. But the risk.
You know, if it's heroin or something, that's completely different.
You're going to do it. You're going to do it, man.
Yeah.
You're going to do it. With your friends out, weed's legal, you're going to do it.
Nah, I don't think so. I have more self-control than that. But I'm a lunatic. I can't go by me because I know I'm different. I'm really weird, right? You know, I've been known to stand at parties with my arms crossed and just stare at everybody and people watch because it's fun. To me, that's having fun. I'm like, look at these people. Look at that guy with the lampshade on his head. Look at that guy hitting on the 8th girl on that side of the club tonight, and he's got a drink thrown in his face. That's funny to me. That's amusing. So that's how I have a good time.
Well, it fits.
But some people want to go crazy
like, oh my
themselves.
God, it's James. It fits you because it's like, oh my God, it's James Hetfield. He's in the club tonight.
I just like to stand there and be stoic and enjoy the scenery. Yeah. We got a couple questions here from Lori. Thanks for being patient, Lori. Has anyone over there been getting blood clots for the vaccine? So we don't really do, the one that's doing the blood clots is AstraZeneca, and we don't. What?
You answered that.
Oh, I did. Okay, sorry.
You spoke about the whole AIDS thing and everything?
Oh, yeah, you're right. I went off on the AIDS count. Okay. So cigarettes are the biggest addiction that should be illegal, but the government makes much money of it and helps keep the population down. Oh, yeah, of course. Well, look, I don't think anything should be illegal. I just think that things should be restricted based on, credentials. So if somebody is a research doctor, I think they should be able to get whatever controlled substances they want, you know. Cigarettes. A cigarette doesn't kill you. A box of cigarettes doesn't kill you. A lifetime of addiction to cigarettes kills you. Being around other people with a lifetime addiction to cigarettes kills you. So, you know, no, I'm not going to go for it. I'm not. I understand of other people. This would not be the hill I'm going to die on. So I'm not going to stop you from trying to make them illegal, but at the same time, I tend to be more laissez-faire. If I can't come up with a good argument why this is dangerous to society, why someone's going to become addicted and start robbing people just so they can feel that for one more minute, then I'm going to be like, you know. So, generally speaking, cigarettes are not like that. People just get dicky. They don't punch old ladies in the face and take their purse. Although that would be funny, right? Cigarette breaks would be different.
So I just want to comment on this. So we flew home last year to Hungary, and I was like, let me find a pack of cigarettes. So you can only find cigarettes in these specialty stores, right? Mm-hmm. And I said, let me go in and get a pack. So I found a specialty store and I went in, and it was the most incredible scene. If you go to your Hungary or Germany and you buy cigarettes, okay, mm-hmm. The companies there have forced the cigarette companies to put death pictures on the pack.
They're literally death sticks from Star Wars.
Death pictures on the packs of the cigarettes.
That's cool.
I bought a pack of Marlboros.
Look at you with show and tell.
With a dead guy and his family standing around him and crying on the cover of the Marlboro pack.
That's one way to get people. See, I like that. See, I think that there's all this unused potential to interface with people and their emotional minds.
Let's just look at this. This is the Hungary pack with the kid with the thing on it. Look at that.
See, I think that's positive propaganda. That's a good example of positive propaganda. The government forcing, using marketing to get people to behave in a way that's better for them. You know, look, my grandma got cancer from cigarettes. I'm not saying my mom, her health was basically ruined by cigarettes. You know, I quit when I was 19. I actually smoked too at one point, and I quit when I was 19 because it was affecting my health and actually my drumming of all things. When I was drumming full time, when I was a full time musician. So you know, I was just like, nah, this is slowing me down. I need to stop. But you know, at the same time, I can't tell. I could tell my grandma not to stop, but I don't want to tell your grandma not to. Hey, what's that, Lori? We got that over here too. Oh, they got the death pictures, and apparently, I think you're saying they punch grandmas for their purse over there for cigarettes. So I'm not sure if that's what you meant, Lori, but tell us because that's funny and also not too funny. It's kind of scary. Man, everything in Australia is trying to kill you. So science, on the science, we're still in the dystopia report. It is 1 hour and 16 minutes in. That's fine, I don't mind. We can go as slow as we need to. Kind of a cool thing with particle physics. He was saying that. Okay, yeah, so people are getting punched in Australia for cigarettes. Yeah, well, you know, that's the problem is violence, even though, well, that's a whole... We'll reopen that can of worms later. I have a feeling you know what I'm going to say. Science from sciencemag.org. Apparently, physicists are now saying that muons are actually more magnetic than predicted. So they actually produce some more muons in a lab. And this is kind of relevant to a story we had last week where some people are actually, and it's the same thing. It's this, it's Einstein's principle of why the universe is expanding as fast as it is, and they have this missing piece. And so they were originally saying that there was dark energy, and now they're saying it's dark matter. But now they're saying muons are more magnetic than expected, and that could actually be why. So we have two competing explanations for the missing physics elements in space. So very cool. I'm really glad to see physics opening up like this. If nothing else, just because I'm sure if you read any Douglas Adams, you know, there's just so much smug, you know. So now they all have to actually, they have to go at it. So I'm kind of bummed out. I don't get to see what's going on inside of B&L. I'm sure they're all at each other's throats about what's going on. There's a Rick Ring on Long Island, not too far from here, if you're wondering what B&L is. Yeah, home invasions and store robbery. Yeah, okay. I'm so trying to not have that conversation until we get out of Dystopia Report. And people are paying over $30 for a pack of 20s. Well, so one thing, there is a loophole here, Lori. Well, there's two loopholes. First of all, the United States is freaking enormous, and a lot of it is arable. You can grow stuff in it. So you could just grow tobacco anywhere. Now, of course, it's illegal to sell it. But it's not illegal on Indian reservations, and a lot of most states have Indian reservations. So if they squeeze too hard here, eventually you come up against the Indian reservation problem, where it actually becomes cheaper to have a road trip with your friends to a reservation, and all of you buy your limit of cigarettes. So there's like kind of an upper limit on the taxation possibilities here.
I don't know if everybody's been to Cigarette Town out east. It's an interesting place.
Yeah,
on the reservation.
And there's cigarette towns all over the
over
country.
there.
So there's I'm not saying that's good or bad, but I mean, on the one hand, I'm like, yes, the Native Americans finally got their comeuppance. On the other hand, death sticks, maybe gambling. No, that's not good either. All right. And this is I have a news to me in the science category. So I didn't know this. Apparently, this has been something it's old. It's been as old as 1968 was the oldest source I saw cited. But I didn't know this. I actually had made a statement online about civgene and about how the fact that human beings are so susceptible to hypothermia in any conditions, including tropical conditions, was an indication of higher intelligence before civilization. That argument got shot down, and here's why. Apparently, chimpanzees and at least one other kind of primate, possibly capuchin monkeys, I couldn't tell. Actually, all I was able to find was a picture, will build covered shelters. So I didn't know this. So, like back in if you go way back in history, like 100 years ago, they weren't too familiar with apes using tools. Well, not only do they use tools, but they build covered shelters in rare occasions. Now, of course, you might say, well, bees can do that or birds can do that. Yeah, but that's instinctual. Like if you change the genes, they stop doing that. So, in fact, there's been scientists who mess around with trying to get bees to make hives of different shapes. So that's definitely instinctual. But as a function of IQ, being able to build a shelter that covers you, there's not a lot of animals that can do that. And it looks like there's 2 primates that I know of as of now, but it's not 0. So that is no good as a indicator for the evolution of man. And on the evolution of man chain, we have a new scientific discovery that is not that new, but now is confirmed. So the confirmation is new. We have a second case of genetic evidence that indicates that Neanderthals may have been interbreeding with Homo sapiens as late as 40,000 years ago.
Party.
Yeah, so we were doing the nasty with the Neanderthals, or the Neanderthals were doing the nasty with us.
What was that party like? Can you? What do you think? It was a Friday night. They all started a fire
Marijuana.
in the woods. And how did it go?
They threw some marijuana on the fire.
Can you tell me how that whole? Was there music, dancing, or was it like an arranged marriage in the cave?
All right, so this is the end of the dystopia report, by the way. So let's just go right into that. So I personally think
longest remote dystopia report.
I think so. I have this thing called civgene, and Ed and I have chatted about it a bit. So I have it is a hard science-based theory, a scientific theory that that all of mankind, all of Homo sapiens, were just like the rest of the animal kingdom and were what we effectively think of as psychopaths, and that there was a genetic mutation along the way that made us begin to irrationally trust each other, and that trust resulted in civilization because, of course, now you don't have to worry about people stealing from you because you're crazy. I don't know how else to put it, So it's basically like a crazy mutation that made us irrationally trust people. And because if you're not trusting, not being switching from hunter-gatherers to farmers is extremely dangerous because you just created yourself as a high-value security target, and you got to sleep sometime. So, and a good way to think about this problem, about why I think I'm right about this problem, why I'm right about this problem, is try to think about what you would do in the case of a total economic collapse. And a lot of people have thought about this prepping problem, at least in jest, kind of goofing around. Not everyone has actually gamed it completely out. But you basically need a citadel of about 100 people with various specializations to protect yourselves. Like, that's the beginning. That's assuming there's no governments that can organize against you. So, you just random passersby, you need 100 people. So how do 100 people trust each other? They don't. So I think that's why I think that agriculture is directly related to trust, and trust is the source of human behavior. And behavior is actually what makes us intelligent as we think of as intelligent. It isn't actually intelligence. That intelligence is cheap and plentiful.
All based on a mutation that took place of giving us way to this behavior.
Giving the civilization gene, or it may have been a group of genes. I don't freaking know. But
Good thing we're getting gene therapy from the COVID shot.
Yeah. Hopefully, it's not turning people into psychopaths, because that would be bad. There's a lot. There's a huge civgene.matthewnewhall.com. There's a huge website up there. But anyway, that's why I was looking at this. That's why I was looking at, like, okay, maybe hypothermia is an angle. No, it turns out not. I just didn't. Goodall had covered it, but it was very. I found 2 pictures. It's very. That's why I didn't see it. I've watched a lot of monkey videos. Can I say I've watched a lot of monkey videos? I've watched a lot of nature videos. As a kid, I would would binge on PBS, and then later as an adult, I'm looking more into the deeper studies and stuff. So I just missed it. It was just too small. But yeah, apparently they do build nests with covers.
No, listen, roofs. I'm fascinated with that too. The woman who spent time with the apes. I think it's still an incredible story, right?
Jane Goodall is her name. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she had a ton of footage in it. Now, one of the things that was bad, one of the things you'll see in there, you'll be like, oh, look how loving the apes are. They're interacting with Jane Goodall. She's loving. They're imitating her. That doesn't mean they're not psychopaths, And of course, this comes up once in a while when somebody tries to keep an ape for a pet. Even if they're treated almost like equals, every once in a while, one of them will go ape shit and hurt them. So
Andy McDowell was my favorite ape. Just saying,
Mm-hmm. Right.
Planet of the Apes, I guess.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, we're all monkeys. It's all good. It's all monkeys. It's monkeys all the way down.
I mean, but with what you see in the world, I don't know. That whole movie seems more possible at this point.
So I got a question for you. You heard the whole news. So we have a thing called the Owie Awards, or Own Worst Enemy. Who is their own worst enemy in all the news stories that we covered? Who did themselves in the worst? I don't even know if I have a candidate. Sometimes I'll have a candidate. Sometimes I won't have an opinion. But
what do you mean? What do you mean between the two of us?
Well, like you could say LG was their own worst enemy because they had a great phone platform and they dropped it. They missed out on this great opportunity, right? You could say
no, the
UK government was their own worst enemy because they told everyone, you're all a bunch of crazy tinfoil hatters, and then they got caught lying about the thing they accused everyone else of. So,
but look at disclosure. That's going to be another thing in that same direction.
Disclosure? Oh, UFO disclosure. Yes, that's right. Yeah, in June, people. June, pay attention. What? We're going to get UFOs. We're going to get more info. We've already got some. I mean,
Yes.
It's like the dam broke and nobody noticed.
But hold on. You got to break the news. UFOs are coming out this year. You agree?
Yes, absolutely. UFOs.
All right. So you're saying it. I'm your sidekick.
We are not alone. We are not alone. Or there's a breakaway civilization where there's a group of humans that are way the hell ahead of the rest of us in technology. Either way. Maybe
both. I think that what's important to say is when these aliens do finally show up, they're not going to be naked. They're going to be wearing spacesuits. I don't know what the naked pictures of aliens all over the place is. I still don't get it. My whole childhood I've been saying naked aliens. I doubt they'll be naked when we see them.
Yeah, well, you know what? I think sometimes we get the children we deserve. So they would probably, in a way, we would be their children. I've always wondered if we get what we deserve with, like, we get the thing we can handle the least, and of course, what can we not handle? Naked aliens. So. Dude, does it have to be flapping like that?
If they're here naked and like run around the woods naked, then there's something really bad. I hope they're wearing suits.
Hopefully they have a pouch they can tuck it into, like a kangaroo or something.
Like, is that what they do? Like, let's go to Earth and like go, and with their birthday suits on.
Tuck that thing in the pouch.
The place where you hang out naked is an alien. Is that like known galactically wide?
I don't know. Maybe they're all there. Like they look at us like, look at that Puritarian planet. Why do they wear clothes? They've got buildings. Yeah. They only need the clothes for when you leave the building.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Such nice weather in the springtime.
Then again, maybe we're the only intelligent species in the universe that smells, right? So, it would be less scary if, we don't even know. Maybe they're all robots. Why would a robot wear clothes? That doesn't make any sense.
But if we take over other planets of society, will there be that one planet where we want to go and always be naked?
Yeah. Well, This beach is in Long Island like that. No, never mind.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
Oh, they shut it down? They shut it down. It used to be able to be topless. I thought the fire, yeah, well, whatever. Anyway. That's a distraction. We're kind of getting wacky here. Let me know if you think aliens are going to be clothed or not, or why you think that's good or bad. So I have a question for you, just like an icebreaker for philosophy. So I was thinking about I think, therefore I am, and I've been pondering this one and working on this one a while. So if we think in speech, right? Isn't it I speak, therefore I am?
Yeah, but it's kind of string theory. Your surroundings and yourself is based on the observer.
Right. All right. I mean, you could substitute. It doesn't have to be speak. You could substitute for read or write. But I think speak is the most ubiquitous.
Right, but you exist because you can think. Otherwise, I mean, if it's true, we're made of light and all that. Think about it. Mm-hmm. You see yourself as you see yourself through your own goggles.
Well, I mean, we all could just be a standing wave. There's no indication that we have to actually be. We perceive ourselves as meat, but but our atomic view of physics tells us that we're just empty space with a bunch of things that are, have essentially tight bonds to each other, but we're not. We could all just be complex waves in a complex universe ocean. Some sort of tidal pool eddy. But it's like Arnold Schwarzenegger said in the 70s, you can become what you think about. So maybe that's a proverb for later in life about inventing yourself to what you believe you can be. That is a great segue to another thing I wanted to bring up. So I actually think that this is a very powerful and a very dangerous idea. It's very powerful for the self. It is very dangerous for the world. And here's why. So you know yourself. You are part of your own internal dialogue. So, when you're thinking about yourself, like, who am I? I want to be this. I want to be that. I want to become something great, And you can basically will yourself into a place where you are a better person. But the problem is, if you try to extrapolate that to people externally outside of you, you become more vulnerable to defectors, to people who aren't making mistakes, but are actually actively trying to do you in. And this is something I find that I have that a lot of philosophies don't accommodate for. Not everybody's nice. Some people are trying to actively do you in. So if you are in a situation where you're like, okay, I can't think about a negative outcome for the vaccines, let's say, because I'll make it happen, and then you don't think about the vaccines at all, now you've made yourself more vulnerable because they might have actually just been carelessly thrown together or put together or put together in earnest too quickly in an error. So errors and mistakes are both become more prominent when you think that you create the world around you by projecting on it. So I mean, I've been thinking about this carefully because I know some people who are like,
right, but they say it's a collective thought, not an individual thought. So I think that the collective thought becomes this curve bell of what becomes reality, right? So we were talking about individual thought, but the united conscience creates this other environment.
Right. Well, so yeah, and we do. So here's one of the things. So I think that our subconscious and our conscience are the same, and we don't have rational control over it. We can make rational decisions to ignore it or incorporate it in a way that maybe other people wouldn't. But I think that it's not something we can directly control. And the reason why is because I think our conscience is a risk engine. It's there to warn us about stuff. And there's lots of side effects, including civilization. This irrational trust comes from that. And I think also one of the other things that comes from the conscience is this. How do I put this? This is almost yes, we've hit vapor lock. We're in full Technocrat live mode. One of the other things that happens with the collective, with the conscience, is that our imagination and our ability to problem solve come from it also, as a side effect of having that very fast risk engine. And so one of the things that the method by which we feed our conscience is interaction with the world. I think our again, I think the conscious and the subconscious are the same thing. That interaction with the world includes our linguistic sets. So the words I'm using to interact with you and to interface with you and everybody are actually conveying a second set of messages. I actually call this tiered steganography because I haven't seen another name for it. And basically what's tiered steganography is when you send two messages to two people at the same time at different, either with different interests or different levels of understanding. And so our subconscious is actually all talking to each other, and it's a distributed background computer, supercomputer, much like SETI at home. So yes, you can influence it, but only through your actions, not through your thoughts. What do you think about that? Is that too heavy?
So no, not at all. As a matter of fact, I concur with you 150%. So cool. I follow this gentleman called Greg Braden, who is just an incredible speaker and has written several books about how we live in a big piece of software. And if we learn its syntax, we can heal ourselves. So I've read a number of his books. His name is Greg Braden. He's a big Gaia.com speaker as well.
I'm familiar with Gaia.com, actually. John Lash is there, too.
Exactly. And I'm telling you, he's written books. And is it possible we can learn this syntax and create this level of healing and frequencies ourselves, or as a collective? Is it possible that collective prayer creates that link to the subconscious, like you mentioned?
Right. So actually, we had talked about him a little bit before the show, so I didn't tell you, but I cheated and I went and looked him up and watched some stuff of his. So I do know a little bit about him, right? So it's interesting where he and I are coming at the same problem, what you just described, but from complete opposites, right? I'm assuming that all the animals on Earth are evil, and evil specifically meaning selfish logic. That very thing is what I mean exactly by the word evil. And that, and we think, oh, they're evil, but really the thing is everything's evil, just we're not. We're ridiculous. And actually, to me, this is a message of love and hope, because this means that the thing that made us civilized is also the thing that can make us the stewards of everything else. Right? So he thinks we have to overcome. I think we have to embrace. So does that make sense? I mean, but
absolutely. And maybe that track has existed for millions of years.
They may look the same.
Our evolution to tap into it, the scale where we go up.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, they may look the same, and he has some solid arguments. Like he gave what the heck? I have some really badly scribbled notes, but he gave three different hard science sources for his thinking, and they're not bad. I mean, I understand why he would come to that conclusion, and I don't even disagree with him, but I don't think that means that conclusion. I think that my conclusion is actually a little more solid. But yeah, I mean, I agree with him. We can.
Well, no offense, but he's a little bit more famous than you. But no offense, he's a little bit more famous than you, so I don't know, how you're judging that. So
yeah, no, he is definitely more famous. Well, come on, call the authorities are terrible arguments, right? But
it's the way the world works.
Because
he's more famous means he's right, doesn't it?
Well, is popularity contests? I mean, well, here's a question about popularity contests. In a world of technocrats, does democracy even work?
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
So we can just open up the whole thing right there, and if people don't understand the problems inherent to the decision making, can they even make a decision about who's tricking them and who's lying to them? I mean, one of the things
our documented human history is based on exactly that.
Yeah.
I mean, decisions made by uninformed leaders that affected who knows how many people.
Right, that people may have just voted for or supported. In a way, you don't have to actually have a democracy to have some democratic attributes, right? You can just support someone because they're charismatic, or because they tell you something you want to hear, right? But yeah, I mean, it's absolutely terrifying. You know, this is the downside to that conscience, that risk engine I was talking about. The downside to it is it's not always right. Sometimes it's really wrong. It's just good at quick decisions. It's good at quick risks. You know, it's not. It just brought us one step of evolution further. It didn't solve all our problems. And I think that's one of the mistakes that we make, is that we think that it does. We still do have to ration. We still need to use reason a lot. You know, we can't just, use reason a little and then we're done, and then do everything from shooting for the hip at intuition. Intuition, it's important to leave the room to use intuition, but you have to do
one of the interesting things about Greg is that his collective prayer. So I saw years ago how he does that, and I agree that everyone does share as conscious, and he literally does this at the same time everybody thinks about it the same way. It's like the clergy and priests do that. Everybody prayed together with somebody. There's something incredibly powerful about that, and that's where religion does have its place,
Oh yeah. Well, prayer. One of the advantages to prayer, I think, is that the rational mind and the subconscious bridge to each other during it. Like one of the things I like about my theory, one of the things that and my group of theories, and I think this is probably true anyway, is that we can, how do I put this? We can, when you have faith is just knowing something you can't prove. And prayer is just the process of rationalizing your insights from your risk engine. And rationalization is actually part of the reason process. So we need that reason process to progress, right? We can't, just like we can't shoot from the hip doesn't do it all the time. Also, doing things strictly rationally doesn't do things all the time either. That's where I differ with most of the scientific world. A lot of people think that IQ is just I think intelligence. IQ is just doing things, problem solving really fast. But I think intelligence is not just IQ. I think it's EQ too. Emotional quotient. I don't know if you're familiar, but it's like
quite
your social
quite
skills, basically.
Yeah, your social skills. Yeah, I mean, if you look at prayer around the world, and for example, Indian prayer and the mantras, and the 108 prayers they need to do. There's something very powerful there, but is it could possibly their syntax to open their gates to these universal codes, and everyone is using whether prayer or certain way of speaking or humming, to make those unlock things happen,
Well, so the good thing about a trance state, I think, is also that it also opens up the gate. Like, I have some of my best insights when I wake up. Or when I'm really sleepy and I'm about to go to sleep. And that's the hell. When you're about to go to sleep and you're tired, you need to go to sleep because you need to wake up the next morning, and all of a sudden you have an insight and you're like, crap. I mean, has that ever happened to you? You're like, oh, crap.
Constant.
Now I got to write this stuff down, and then you're wide awake because your rational mind turned back on to process it. But usually, fortunately, it's when I wake up. But a trance is very similar. It is the closest you can get to your subconscious mind, talking directly to your rational mind. And interacting. So, yeah, I mean, we're definitely playing in. We might even be playing the same game. We're just playing on different teams.
It's very interesting. There's this guy Mohan who built this machine so he can sing his mantras into this tube, and he had a laser pointed at the other end that points at the wall to see what laser shapes these mantras make. And it's absolutely incredible, the signs that you get out of these shapes that come up on the wall when you sing these mantras in a certain sequence. There's something there, that has been long forgotten. Now, people are in religion, but they're, and they go to church, but it's just not that essence of unlocking these codes has been lost in the current translation.
It may be possible that mass prayer, like group prayer, is actually, remember, I think that the subconscious is a background supercomputer. It may be job control. We may be queuing different jobs. We need to work on world peace right now. We need to work on race relations right now. We need to work on sexism right now. We need
So
to work
what are
on
the
income
job
disparity
cues
right
for
now.
what's going on now? What kind of job cues are based on what's happening now?
Oh, it's a nasty job queue. Well, I think I think different parts of the world, it depends who you're interacting with, right? So like me and someone in, a small town in India, we don't have the same job queue because we're not interacting on the same information. But you and I, our job queues are syncing up right now. So, which, I think because you're so intelligent and because you have thought about these problems so much, it's a painful process. It's hard to talk about this. Like my brain is going a million miles an hour right now, which is why, sometimes you get the language vapor lock, right? You're talking and you're just like, I'm known for being able to talk. And sometimes when we talk this deep on something, I hit a wall and I'm like, I don't know.
Well, no, I get it. And Matt, and you and I have talked about this before, right? So we are technocrats, so I'm going to lay it out, right?
Sure.
So if you live to your 84 years old, it's 30,296 days, 4,319 weeks. There isn't enough time to talk about all the stuff I want to bring up. I mean,
yes,
if you look at how short life is, 4,300 weekends is your whole existence. So you can either maximize it and be introspective or just follow the track and take the automatic car from the beginning to the end.
So here's the cool thing. We're doing it. We're doing it right now by interacting with everybody in the audience that's listening to us and us talking about these problems and this interface and how it works, right? One of the reasons I want to do the show is because either I want to get to the point where civgene is indisputable or it's garbage and I toss it away. I literally just tossed away a theory online. And the funny part is it happened on Gab. The Twitter people treat themselves as such. I'm on every social media platform, and the Twitter people are so self-important and snobbish. Like, yes, we are the intellectuals, and yeah, I couldn't have a conversation that deep with them there because they would just yell at me. But on Gab, I was able to actually have an in-depth enough conversation where I got to the point where I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, this hyperthermia argument doesn't work. Like literally real scientific discourse. So I just thought that was funny because, when people think so highly of themselves and they're just dead wrong.
That's why I appreciate you so much. You know what I mean?
I was wrong.
We're just here to serve. We're just here to serve as people. Everyone, especially in the region we're in, really, I'm not sure what they're focusing on. Such a lack of community focus and just everybody's just into what it is they need to survive instead of just, I don't know. It's kind of tough to see in the business world out here.
What? You're saying something? Yeah. Okay.
yeah. That's pretty much 90% of my conversation.
We just stare at our cell phones. My poor kids. I feel bad because I have to. It's the thing that scares me the most about children being addicted to the internet is that the only way to break them out of their interface is to be negative. And I don't want their experience with the real world to be constantly negative, but it's the only way to get them out. I don't know, I can restrict them so they can't use it, but this is all the knowledge in the world. And managing this knowledge without becoming addicted to it is the problem they have to solve. It's not that they're missing out on learning. That's the thing they have to learn. But they have to learn it for themselves. I can't give it to them. Maybe we need to mentor each other's kids so that they know how to use the internet to learn things but not become addicted to it.
I'm fine. I'm having a personal experiment that I'm doing to my kids.
Okay.
So my son is already a Fortnite guy and he's doing pretty well actually. He's a big Fortnite guy, and now my daughter wants to play Fortnite. So I realize, she's into it and everything, and when it takes away his personal thing there, he's not as interested. So I really realized through this experiment that the video games is pushing his introverted behavior, and when it's not there for him, it's not as exciting. So I wonder what that's going to expand to be, Well,
it's hyperstimulation. So they're really getting there. I'm doing it too. I'm doing stuff I never dreamed I would do. I'm listening to videos. I rarely listen to videos on one-time speed anymore. I'm usually upping it to 1.25 or 1.5 or 2. And sometimes if it's really deep, I have to slow it back down You know, if
is that a
if there's
status
lot of
thing now
information
that
coming
you
like
can
this.
watch at 1.5? Okay, is that like a status thing now? Like you're cooler than me because you can watch these at 1.5?
It depends on who, you know, because the thing is I have different, here's part of it. I have different topics that interest me, and a good teacher doesn't necessarily have to do with how their speed is. So some people will be 1. Some people I'll listen to at 1. But some people I'll listen to at faster speeds because they're giving me good information. They're just giving it slowly. Like there's one podcast, which I'm not going to name because I don't want to paint them in a negative light. But, you know, I'll get one thing out of a podcast because it's like a news, you know, current events kind of podcast. And, you know, I'll get 1 or 2 things, but those 1 or 2 things are extremely valuable. So I'm basically doing a regex with my brain on the contents for whatever. I don't know why I'm doing. You think it would be easier to just get a transcript and do it on that, but I don't know what I'm looking for. But I'll know it when I see it. Is that weird? I mean,
no, but you have to understand. So me and a lot of my friends grew up with this Tascam device where you could slow down things so we could learn the guitar licks. So I'm not really speeding it up. Do they have a slow down one?
That I do that on guitar. So if I find a guitar song and I'm like, how do I play this song? How do I play "Pour Some Sugar on Me"?
Yeah, you slow it down.
You slow it down. You know, okay, this and then this because my my fingers are, you know, my big stupid gorilla hands are just whoa. I don't know what they're doing. I'm not a guitarist. I just do it for fun. But you know,
not saying in that song. I mean, if you really break it down, it's quite sexist. But whatever.
Yeah, of course.
You know, it's kind of like abuse kind of song. I don't know why it's so beautiful.
Well, you know what it is like. Like
Master Puppets.
Making love is passion. Making love is passion, and passion shuts the brain off. I think it was like a biological thing. Like the reason that song feels sexy, even though it's a piece of a lot of rock songs are just pieces of shit. Like if you look at them and you're really critical of them, you know. But like because it reflects how you feel at the time when you already committed, and it's just passion, right? It's just you're just capturing the passion. It's not an intellectual exercise. Stop taking comedians literally, you lunatics. You know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
But it is pretty funny when you break it down into regular terms, you know?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you saw my little joke on my post with the Star Troopers there who are talking about the insurance claims for the Death Star. You know, so when you, it's funny to put a regular twist on.
Right. Well, you know, let's talk a little bit about Pour Sugar on Me compared to Angel of Death by Slayer. Right?
Yes.
I think Angel of Death is a more morally defensible song than Pour Some Sugar on Me. Right? So, because it is a warning, you know, like I've always thought of rock like this. It's a pill bottle. You got the instructions and you got the warning. Don't mix them up. Don't do the stuff the warning says. And don't ignore the instructions. But, you know, it's a warning. So, in that context, you know, okay, let's not become lunatic fascists hell-bent on destroying the world or controlling it, you know, way more important than let's get it on, you know. But yeah,
and not only that, I mean, Tom Araya, you know, I'm a huge Slayer fan. Tom Araya is just a fabulous guy, and they're not Satanists. And to consider, they talk about Satan or whatever, which means that you have to realize God. And this other Pour Some Sugar on Me is just this kind of abuse situation where you need a towel at the end. I don't know, you know. I guess it depends how you look at it.
Right. Well, you know, it's just that's why people feel guilty when their brains turn back on after sex. All the Lawnmower Man kind of stuff racking through their brain. Watch Lawnmower Man. Ignore the graphics. It's a great movie. The graphics are terrible, but the ideas are really amazing. Let's see. What did I want to talk to you about? I don't know. We just went wherever with that. That was awesome. What do you think about conspiracies versus coincidence? You know, like I've gotten into the habit of when people call me a conspiracy theorist, I come right back at them with, "Well, you're a coincidence theorist," you know, and and secret societies or secret agendas even.
I apologize for cutting you off. It's been a couple hours, so I'm just I apologize. But
No, it's fine.
I'm still trying to figure out where we're creating time or we're living in the wake of it. And I think that's
we're living
part
in the
of
wake
the
of it,
bigger picture. But it's possible we can be in both at certain times, you know?
Oh yeah.
So
we affect the outcome of everything we look at.
Are we creating this, or are we reliving something? I think is part of that answer.
So here's where I think that this actually relates to what we were talking about before. Laura May said there are no coincidences; things just happen at the same time.
Which means that she's living in the wake of time. But is it possible we also have the ability to create time in our plane, not only live in the wake of it?
What was that?
I think she's making a reference to one of Mark's old touring guys, Dwayne,
Okay.
where he's like where he said someone said something he experienced was a coincidence. He's like, it wasn't a coincidence; it just happened at the same time. So
yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. But no. But you know what? There is a causality implied with coincidence that isn't implied with synchronicity, coincidence, and conspiracy are all different. And everybody's treating this as a binary choice, and it doesn't have to be. That's one of the things that drives me crazy about this.
Is coincidence always proof you're living in the wake of time?
No, but so this is people are quantum. We affect the outcome by looking at it, for sure. We definitely do that, and it probably has to do with the way the actual atoms of our neurons are built, right? And whether that's real, whether we're giant antennas or we're just meat bags that also happen to have this quantum element to our cells, doesn't matter. I don't want to get into that. A lot of people like to be like, my faith, and I'm like, that's your faith. Get out of here. I just want to talk about the range of possibilities, and we'll work with that. So I think that our subconscious, I think that when we are quantum to ourselves, so we can change our own outcomes, just like I was saying before, about how it's a positive thing when we're looking at ourselves and making a destiny for ourselves. But when we try to do that on the rest of the world, we may have some effect. I'm not saying we have no effect, but we have a limited effect, and it comes at a cost, which is that risk of not, when you're projecting what you want to happen in the world, and I'm not just using projecting in the psychology sense, but also in the actual maybe affecting the outcome as well, you're blocking your own view it's like shining a headlight. You can't see the other headlights coming at you as well, and you may not realize that someone's got it in for you. Is that, are those lights shining at me the eyes of a deer or an oncoming car? You know what I'm saying? It's that's not the best analogy, but kind of getting there.
But what I mean by living in the wake of time is that has existed, that sequence, whatever just happened that day, is just a repetition over and over, and your recognition of living in that repetition.
Oh yeah. Well, there's nothing new under the sun, right? That's for sure, right? We're all just doing variations of the same old patterns.
But consider
we're storytelling around the fire right now.
But consider the possibility that we're all following this track, but there's something that you could do to create fresh time inside of what you're in. And how do you do that?
Well, so people have experienced time variations, like in an extreme emergency, heavy adrenaline, heavy danger. All of a sudden, time seems to slow, and then all of a sudden, it snaps right back at the end. That could be perception, or it could be real. I can't tell.
Is it possible that doing the things that make you uncomfortable create time?
Oh, fuck yeah, man. Yeah, that's totally possible. I mean, you know what? That would be amazing if it was true, because I am constant cringe So that means I'm going to live forever. And Steve will too, because he's all about the cringe.
You and I have done this thousands of times. You and I have done this thousands of times before.
Yeah, well, I mean, who's even to say we're not all the same person and reincarnation isn't just one soul? Wouldn't that be a trip? And that includes
I'd rather look
deities.
like
deities
James
at one point.
Hetfield. Well, to be honest, I wish I looked like James Hetfield, so you got one on me.
Hold my beer. I can't down. I might look like him, but I'm not genetically related to him because I cannot downpick that fast. I have to cheat. So, yeah, I just want to look at the comments. Did I miss anyone? Oh, Laura May. I like that. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's possible. I don't know. Yeah, it's possible that we are all the same person. That we are, or we are, maybe we're finite people and we aren't all the same person, but we're revisiting similar interactions over and over, trying to get it right. And I strive to be earnest constantly. I want to be earnest. I want to, whether it's to satisfy myself, to do right by the people around me, whether it's to satisfy God, whether it's to satisfy future versions of myself, I'll leave that up to the viewer. I don't have an opinion. I like to not have an opinion too much. I mean, I really am a Christian, but that doesn't mean that the Bible is the only interface or the only reality of God and the universe. It could be much, much bigger than that. I really think it's...
Well, you can call the entity whatever you wish. It doesn't really matter. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah, it doesn't. I don't think it does. I think this idea that, a lot of monotheists, they all have the Ten Commandments in common, thou shalt not take the Lord's name in vain. That's about not telling other people what to do. That's about not intruding on their faith and trying to take it over and form a cult of yourself. That's what I think that's really about. I don't really think that that's about, yelling Jesus Christ when you stub your toe, or even having a conversation where I said God is bigger than the Bible. Of course, God's bigger than the Bible. Anyone who said otherwise is ridiculous. Because that's a document written for us in our limited form, and He's unlimited. Therefore, it must be bigger, right? I mean, it's just blatant logic. So
that's interesting. That's it. So is it possible, therefore, if you look at nature and understand the Fibonacci formula, you could technically predict the future?
I think we do all the time. I think that. So this is one of the things that I love about civgene, is that. So one of the things I got from civgene, it was quite a convoluted bunch of. It wasn't convoluted. It's just a lengthy process. But one of the things I got out of that is that actually these behaviors that we show that don't have mirrors in the animal kingdom are actually our rights. That's the foundation of our rights. So it's funny because the people who seem to get the most mad at me with civgene are the leftists, but they are actually the ones who are going to benefit the most from it, because right now we can't have a system without God giving us our rights. And I have a scientific basis for getting our rights, which is also really scary too, because if it goes wrong, it's going to go really wrong. But oh crap, I forgot where I was going with this. Vapor lock.
What
was your question again? I bet I'll pick it up if you tell me.
About understanding the human nature and organics and the Fibonacci formula.
The Fibonacci, okay, predicting the future, right? So I think that one of the things that comes up, one of the things that all of these behaviors that are unique to humans have in common, is they have future components. We have an ability to look at things in terms of, think about what property is versus territory. That's a really easy one. I actually have it here. I can just read it out because I always blow it when I try to remember it from memory, because I thought very carefully about how I worded it. So property is the identity of a place, an object, or an accomplishment belonging to a being or a group, honored and understood as a provision of autonomy to a distant time, right? It's deep. There's a lot of pieces, but they're all future pieces. That's what makes it unique. the closest equivalent in the animal kingdom is territory. Territory is control of a place, object, role, or being or group, enforced by violence, revoked by absence. Basically, if you ain't there, it ain't your property no more. So in other words, it was never property to begin with, it was just territory. So, and they're all like that. They all have a future component to them. And so, yeah, hell yeah. I think that we live in the future. It doesn't matter if it's a person who's obsessed with nostalgia. It doesn't matter if it's a person who's nervous about what's happening to them now and trying to constantly change it. If you have a conscience, you're in the future. You are, to some degree, a futurist because that's where your risk engine is. Because risk engines don't help with the present or the past. You only visit them to tune your engine. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's a source of data, but it's not necessarily. So I think, so here's the, nostalgia is an interesting one because if I'm right, what's actually happening is as you move forward and backward through memories, you're actually remembering, you're feeling how you felt when you did the thing that you're remembering. And that's what's actually, that's the metadata that glues the conscience together. So that's why we feel nostalgia. You can literally, if you went to a concert and had a great time, if you remember that concert, you will feel like you felt when you were at that concert. That's why it's like, that's why we can live on.
You're building that two-dimensional picture in your mind.
Right. Well, 4 or 5 even, you know, you can build the whole thing, you know, if you, depending on how good your imagination is. But, yeah, I mean,
my brain can play video clips. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, we're gonna get there. You know, I think Black Mirror scares the hell. Have you watched Black Mirror at all?
Yeah, I love that show so deeply.
They need to make.
I met my most famous actor on that show.
Really?
I don't know his name, but he's been in a bunch of movies, and he was in that one where he's in the room with the videos and he's on the bicycle. And he's being programmed. What's that actor's name? He's awesome. I love that guy.
Yes, he was. Yeah, they were in. I don't know his name either. But
he was also in that movie where he was trapped by those people and they were going to kill him. Anyway, I'll come up with it.
I may not have seen that. I may not have seen that movie. But
Get Out. He was the actor in Get Out.
Okay. Yeah, neural
Awesome
interfaces
movie.
are coming, man. You know, I really think that, you know, and the interesting part is, you see, like a lot of the technologies that are coming, a lot of these questions that we're having, I think they're actually going to be answers.
Is it Daniel Kaluuya?
I'm looking it up.
The lead actor of Get Out?
Yes. That guy is, in my opinion, going to be so huge. He's such an awesome actor. That
He already
guy
is. He's done some pretty big things recently.
Yeah.
I
like him too.
I think he's excellent. Really great actor.
I mean, it's funny. He just starred in Judas and the Black Messiah. That was a pretty big thing.
Oh, I didn't see that yet. It's on my list to watch.
Very good.
I have a problem sometimes when I get immersed in this stuff. I forget that I'm not just enjoying entertainment. You know, I hope that happens to my audience. But yeah, I hope it happens to everybody that watches this. But yeah, I just get completely. And yeah, he's such a good actor. I didn't even think about the fact that he's a great actor. He really is.
And he was in Black Mirror.
He never pulled me out of the moment.
Actually.
He never pulled me out of the moment. I was right there with his character. And even though his character had this huge arc during that episode. Yeah. So, yeah, very cool. You're right.
He was awesome in Get Out. I got to recommend that movie. For me, it made me realize how great of an actor is. Really freaky movie.
Hey, you know what? Since we're talking about movies, let's talk about that movie you told me about. I watched it.
Yeah, it was so I like horror movies, and this was one of them. If you want to talk about it, it's with a very famous actor.
So it was Unhinged. So Russell Crowe, and he got really fat for it. So if nothing else, now I would say if horror actually scares you, don't watch it because it's actually reasonably scary. Like I would give my older kid.
It's a horror movie.
I would give my older kid the pass to watch it, but with me, not alone. You know, like it's like it's in that category. It's like R, like I'll let it go, but I got to be there. You'll have questions.
It's not a movie you watch with your wife on a Friday night. It's not that kind of a movie. Well,
sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I'm not sure. I wouldn't watch it with my wife on the way. Not that one.
So my wife is okay with horror movies, although there was one time it went really wrong, which is when I brought her to a theater on the motorcycle to watch Jeepers Creepers in the theater. Yeah, and we're riding home, and all she can think of is that creature flying down and grabbing her and flying away with her. And she was just completely free. She was a mess on the way home. Like, she was normally okay with the motorcycle, but that was too much for her. And, I kind of don't blame her. That's pretty scary.
10 years ago, my friends and I, if anybody's on, we were watching this Human Centipede series that was really scary about a doctor who does surgery on victims he kidnaps. But it became such a huge underground culture thing,
Yeah,
it's just fun. You can't take it seriously.
At least watch the trailer for that, and I just didn't get a chance. I'm sorry. Yeah, you gave me homework, and I didn't do all of it. I hope I don't fail. I wanted.
It sounds like I'm interviewing you now. Something happened in the show in the last hour or two.
Yeah,
I don't know. I have more questions for you.
Well, you know what it is. So this is a problem. This has got to be. Mark and I were discussing this. I just had Mark Mendoza on my show last week, and Mark and I were discussing what it means to be a host. And so with less experienced guests, the problem is getting them to chill out and relax and just be themselves. With more experienced guests, people who are used to working a room, so to speak, one of the problems is keeping them in the guest seat. Right?
I'll shut up. Okay,
no, it's fine. It's actually, I don't mind. It's okay. My attitude about this is I've got an audience. I'm here every week. If people, I don't want to talk over you too much. I just want to set you up with really great questions. Even if it takes a little background sometimes to set up the tough questions are hard to set up. But I want to set you up with really great questions so you can tell us what your opinion is. They'll have a chance to hear my opinion again and again and again and again until they're really tired of it. Hopefully not. But even if you wanted to talk more about Greg, I actually have some positive things to say about him too. But
I wanted to talk about Mark for a second. You've obviously known him for a long time,
Right. Mark is awesome. We had such a fun show. I'm actually embarrassed because I never stopped laughing during the show. So he really made me laugh. I'm embarrassed about how crazy I went.
So I play bass, and he was an influence for me when I was a little kid. I moved to this country, and I listened to Twisted Sister, and it was just so awesome. It totally got me into rock.
Yeah.
To get to meet him, years later, and get to chat with him is really cool.
There's a lot. The thing I love about Mark is how he is like how I always imagined I'd be as a musician. He's an amazing musician. He's deep, but he's also congenial, and he's also highly intelligent and has a lot of deep thoughts on other things other than music, and then interfaces them and brings them around. And it makes music more, this is like something that's not going to be for everyone, but hopefully for this audience. It makes music more accessible to me because he can and maybe to everybody else too, he can bridge gaps other musicians can't, because he doesn't have to just speak through music. He can use language and music to create a new edifice that's never existed, and that actually is reflected in his history, because he's done a bunch of production work that he never talks about. I don't know why the guy's so humble. Maybe I got to get him on again and talk more about his production stuff. I didn't even ask any questions about his production stuff.
The few times I got the chance with him, he's very humble. He just, even when I did the first show, he mics you up. He's just like a regular guy. I don't know. It's so appreciated.
Well, it's funny.
To meet him 20 years later, and he's just like a regular guy. That's
look at this. Now he's interviewing both of us, and he's not even here. So, or we're interviewing him. One of those. But yeah, it's funny. Actually, I asked him what his favorite superhero is, and he said Deadpool. And that is actually really, yeah. He said Deadpool, and that was really fitting for him, because
he's not a hero.
Well, Deadpool's a hero to me, all right. So, but he's also he's fourth wall. He's meta. He's bridging the gap between the audience and the screen for new concepts. That is so Mark. So that is the space he's in. And I know it sounds weird because a lot of people are like, Twisted is so, basic 4/4 rock, really simple. And I don't think so. I don't
think so either.
I mean, he completely changed that band completely changed this region. It just made it different. It just made a rock scene that made us, that made you, Ed, and Matt.
Well, people are forgetting that Mark is part of other big projects like Dictators and Blackfoot.
Right.
Which were insane. And Mark's playing. I mean, I've heard him play countless times, and he's an insane musician.
Nobody gives him credit for all the crap he's done.
I made Mark a playlist of a bunch of like modern metal artists, just because he wanted to be kind of like caught in the loop of some of the stuff that I was listening to. Mm-hmm. And like we were listening to some song, and we were just sitting there trying to figure out the time signature for a song we were listening to. And Mark was just like that, and he grabbed it.
Nice.
So well, let's just talk about bass. I regress for 1 second because
bass away, man.
Matt and I, you know where I'm going to go with this, okay?
Maybe.
So yes, you and I have talked about this on our last phone call. Mark, when he plays bass, he uses fingers. Other famous musicians use a pick. So right off the bat, you know he's a real musician. Not saying that bass players who play a pick aren't real musicians, but they're not like the guys who play real bass with a finger. Anyway, just
as
wanted
Mark
to get that
says, it's just different tones.
Yes.
So.
But you know what? You have to apply the metal test, though. What is more metal? You know,
metal
to play with your fingers.
I'm fingers, man. Fingers, not pick.
I've actually, you know, I have a bass and a guitar, and I've been fooling around with both because of Rocksmith, and I'm okay. You know, I mean, I'm a drummer. I'm not a guitarist, but half the time I'm on the bass, even if I start with a pick, get rid of this. It just comes naturally. It's the tones and the width of the strings. It's functional and acoustic that makes you want to go to fingers.
My friend's in the Queensryche, somebody I work with in a Queensryche cover band, and I guess all that was played with a pick, but he plays with fingers, and I don't know, you get a better groove out of it, I think, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't played around. I feel bad. I think Mark wanted to talk more bass. I have to play it more because I just like, you know, I'm all for the rhythm section, but I'm not that part of the rhythm section. I'm just visiting. I'm not a native, so.
Yeah, bass is important, man. If you look even, and not to regress from that, but look at the sound weapons that were invented in World War II that have been just recreated now, you know, based on low tones and whatever, high tones. I mean, you know, bass could really, it makes sense. It carries the tune. It puts the feeling in the music.
I mean, if you want to talk about music as a weapon, you know, I've always thought that there isn't a killing joke, there's a killing song. And I mean, the military does this. When you have a bunch of soldiers, they're trying to de-escalate a situation. What do? They break out the fucking Macarena. That's what they do. Because everybody starts doing the Macarena with them, and that way everybody's dancing and everybody's relating to each other, and you know, kind of like that prayer you were talking about, trying to put them on the same page of okay, what do we want? We want to be able to get along with each other. We want to be able to communicate, and you know, some of it's dance, but for some people who aren't musicians, dance is the closest they can come to music. You know,
right.
And,
feeling it, sure.
That's how you connect with a group of people some of whom are not musicians in music. And yeah, I mean, it works. It's a weapon, and my favorite kind of weapon. Metal boys.
And again, and when in Afghanistan or whatever, they pull up with these trucks and they blast metal at the houses to get them out. That's interesting, you know.
Yep. Yeah. I'd be like, yeah, man, turn it up. That would totally backfire with me.
Yeah, all of a sudden they're playing like Cyndi Lauper '80s tunes. All right.
That you know, like I'm not telling them what not to play or what to play because they're probably going to be disappointed with all the results. Well, that was kind of a cool conversation. I don't know where the heck that all went. Oh yeah, we were talking about the Unhinged. We never even got into it. So let me not be interviewed by you. Let me interview you. What do you think was going on in Unhinged? You know,
it shows incredible emotional rage.
Emotional rage, interesting.
And it shows how clearly uncontrolled mental illness is in this country.
Right. Well, first of all, it is a fictional work, but yes, there are people who do stuff like this. So,
so what? I mean, can we talk about just hint at what the movie's about?
We can talk about everything. It's spoiler warning. That's why I gave a spoiler warning. If you want to watch Unhinged, get out of here. You know, come back after you watch. It's worth watching, so go watch it. I'll give it an A.
So I'm a big Russell Crowe fan. He looks great.
Horror. If you're a horror fan, it's A-. So you'll like it. There's a few problems with it, but it's nothing that, especially for what's going on in the world right now, they did it. They got it out there. So
it's about road rage. It starts with road rage.
Right.
And basically Russell Crowe, who's a great actor, looks great, got ready for the role, and he took it very personally and takes it to the extreme level.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you really. Yeah, and so you think that that character is a emotionally angry, desperate, just over the edge person. That's how you saw it.
Yes, and somehow I feel like it's a reflection of how some men feel today. It's almost a release.
Oh my God.
Which is scary, But
yeah, I felt that.
All the things that you would never do are like in this movie,
My inner psychopath is present and accounted for. So I have the dark thoughts, and I'm glad they're just thoughts. I like it because it's great because I can model the things going on around me with them. But I don't want to act on them because I don't want to hurt anyone. Overall, I know I would feel the deepest guilt in the world if I ever did a tenth of the stuff he does in that movie. I mean, even just talking, maybe yelling at them through the window, it would have stopped there,
What about the scene? So I've seen millions of women on the road do their makeup while they're driving. There's a scene in there that I imagined, and it just released all of this thoughts I had for years with that one scene. Don't do your makeup while driving, or watch this movie if you plan to put makeup on while you're driving.
So I have a funny story about that because I was in technical speech, and our technical speech teacher gave an example of what technical speech is versus technological prowess and being supplemented for it. And he said one of the best talks he's ever heard was a girl in the class who basically did a demo on how to do your makeup while driving.
Oh my God!
And she got an A because it was perfect. She showed exactly what to do and how to not crash. But it's still crazy. You only got to mess up once, and you could murder a family, murder multiple families. Yeah. So.
And there's certainly a scene about that in this movie, and it's satisfying if you don't like other people who are doing it while you drive.
Laura is guilty. She's one of those people. Makeup, if not in the car, where?
I mean, it's bad. I mean,
I'm sure. I know Laura,
man.
And she has a good conscience. If she is doing her makeup in the car, she thinks she's got that to a pro level. So, but yeah, the lady in the movie buys it.
Yeah. Look, I was into knee driving for a lot of years. I used to do it with my wife in the car, but knee driving is as bad as makeup driving, you know?
Yeah, I see that. She honestly, I feel the least guilty about her death of anyone in the movie. I feel like that was kind of funny. But maybe, part of that could be the fact that in a movie, if you don't have character development, you don't care. Right?
Well, it's placed correctly within the structure of the hate that he produces.
Right. It's just like, in a way, I was kind of looking at this movie and trying to figure out, because they always try to, whenever you tell a story, you always try to put the audience in one of the characters. So trying to figure out where the audience was. And to me, I think in that one scene, the audience was either in her or in him. Yeah, and I was in him, which is something I'm proud of. But, I do get mad.
I was in him, totally.
I totally, you will not see me, I do my best to not lose it. But, I feel it. I feel it too.
Why would Russell Crowe play this terrible role? I mean, it's imprinted in my head who he is in this movie.
Right. Well, actually, so his role as Gladiator helped me with this movie. It helped me bring that whatever typecasting there was going on with that, helped me to bring me around and to enjoy this role more. Because I'm just like, oh, they can take him. I'm like, oh, wait, yeah, no, he's the Gladiator. This isn't going to be good. He's this fat gladiator.
By the way,
they're going to die.
let's not give it away the ending. It's an awesome ending.
Yeah, it is an awesome ending. Yeah, it is a satisfying ending, but you got to go through a lot of pain to get there. And so here's my take. So he's a psychopath.
Yes, he is. Clearly, in everything you've taught me or told me about.
Yes, yeah. He is a psycho. And so probably, now, of course, I realized that I can actually do a neat trick here. So I was asking people in the past few interviews about psychopaths, and it just makes for an uncomfortable, awkward conversation. What I can do is I can talk about movies that have psychopaths in them, and that's not uncomfortable at all. Because even if I get it wrong, I'm not hurting anybody, right? And it is fairly dangerous to diagnose people with mental illness at a distance, unless it's in their defense.
Right.
But even then, it could be dangerous. But it's fictional, so I'm not hurting anybody. And anyways, the fictional character is, well, he's not doing well. Let's just say that. I don't want to spoil it. But yeah, I mean, he clearly thought he owned his wife. His ex-wife. He was like, I own this person. And when that ownership was violated, he went, nope. You know, he thought he was top ape, at least of his little branch. And that was the final straw of everything and everyone telling him he wasn't top ape. And what he did in that movie, this is great. This is actually a great example. That was classic narcissist rage. Someone who didn't know they were a psychopath. And then when they finally lost their ability to control themselves at all anymore, realized they were, and they went into full ego, antisocial personality disorder stage. Because I think that narcissist, antisocial personality disorder, and sociopath are a progression, like Freud stages, like id, ego, superego. It's actually called wants, abilities, and limits. So he was in wants, and he went to abilities. And all that anger from a lifetime came out.
Now, we were comparing it to that movie, what was it called? Falling Down from the 80s or 90s?
Right.
It's definitely like the modern version on a whole nother level of this.
Well, interesting. So I think Michael Douglas, it was Michael Douglas in that movie. Yes, Michael Douglas's character is not a psychopath.
Interesting.
He is just a disgruntled, ordinary, empathic human. And the reason I say that is look at the end.
Right. Good point.
Yeah, so he doesn't. This guy is like, I'm going to turn it up to 11 and I'm going to rip the knob off. Michael Douglas got his knob turned down by someone else. You can't. A psychopath in their first full-blown narcissist rage, you can't turn the knob down. All you can do is get out of the way and let the cops show up. Which is they were constantly trying to do. The whole movie is the cops trying to show up and failing. So I mean, it was the best argument, and we'll get into what Laurie wanted to talk about, I think, a little bit here. It was the best argument for gun ownership I've ever seen. You know.
By the way,
minutes away when seconds count.
Did you see Peppermint? By the way.
Peppermint?
Yes.
The movie?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I haven't seen it.
Oh, okay. So maybe we'll save that for the next show. It's equally violent, but it's a woman's version. What's her name? She does the same thing that he does, but what's her name? Jennifer Garner?
Okay. Cool. Or maybe Monster next time. I have to watch it again. It's been a while.
Yeah, check it out. Peppermint.
There's another actor who's amazing. Well, actress is the actress from Monster. I mean, the depth between Monster and Mad Max, holy cow. I mean, very, very different roles. Very different.
Interesting.
So Laura's got a question for you, Ed. It's about psychopaths. Yes. Do you want it?
Sure.
Okay, so Ed, without mentioning any names, obviously, how many psychopaths do you believe you know?
I believe I know quite a bit, actually. And the way I look at it is people who will, say one thing, but once you really examine it, it's the fear of not having something, this complete selfish kind of behavior, but it's hidden and needs to be discovered, and it's on the face, it's one thing. They put this facade on, but you can clearly tell that at all costs, they need to have what they need to survive in this world.
Power. It's all
not even power. Just I need as much, lack of abundance. It's all I got to keep all this to myself and can't tell anyone.
Right. Well, and I think it's all the thing that they can't do is cooperate. They can compete, and the competition can be in the format of a cooperative competition. Like, people who are competing in a soccer game aren't really cooperating with the other team, but they're cooperating in that they acknowledge the rules of the game, and they appreciate the game, and they think the world is going to be better. Their world and our world is going to be better from the game. So they are cooperating in a way. And the psychopaths don't necessarily cooperate at any level, or at least not voluntarily. Yeah, I think that's the difference.
I always thought about this. I wonder if tailing a psychopath, that your life is a certain sequence and you only have so many weeks, that maybe they can see the length there, or recognize that a lot of things have to be accomplished and it requires a team,
Right. Yeah, well, that's what exactly. That is the advancing that I'm talking about. And there's been a lot of politics. I mean, a ton of politics that went into the early days of Hare's early days of psychopathy discovery and discussion. And that's one of the reasons that we call it antisocial personality disorder and not psychopathy in the court system. But it's psychopathy. That's what they're talking about. But actually, I'm glad they did that, because that's just one of the ways they can express themselves. It's not the only one. So they kind of did, by trying to prevent people from being labeled, they actually did us all a favor.
But you're saying, but psychopaths, as we've been talking, as you describe, are everyday people. They're not and people in a loony bin. They're just just anyone.
They're not killers. And actually, I think the thing is, what happens is, because society hides them from what they are, it won't accept them, right? They're just psycho killers. And because it won't accept them, that actually makes them more dangerous, because then they're trapped in this narcissist stage, because they have no feedback that's telling them, oh, you're a psychopath. And so they just get more and more aggressive, and eventually they encounter an unwinnable situation, which to them is impossible, because they're just think about narcissism and the description of narcissism. Is it Narcissus the guy's name? The one who stared into the river and gazed at himself forever, right? They just think they're in the Truman Show. They just think they're in a movie and they're the star, and it gets to a point where they're like, well, if this is just a dream, why can't I change the outcome? And they can't. That's where the unstoppable force hits an immovable object, and they flip out. When a grown man flips out, he's murdering people, right? And what really needs to happen is, as children, they need to be, well, you're different, and these are the problems. And they go, oh, okay. And they may be angry, but they can do less damage, because it's the reason children are small, right? They do less damage. And then as they advance to sociopathy is all about accepting, oh, the police are going to come and collect me if I don't cool it, right? And if they realize what they are, they're actually in some ways less dangerous. It's less catastrophic. And I think that one of the reasons that's happening, there's a couple of reasons. I think one is because we're all crazy. We all start witch hunts all the time. Cancel culture is a perfect example of that. And if we stop doing that, then they'll feel more comfortable coming out. But also, I think there may be a conspiratorial aspect to this too, where the top, highest IQ sociopaths recognize the danger posed to them by other psychopaths, and actually don't want them to follow this progression and get to a point where they're self-aware and fully functional, because now they're a competitor. So.
Well, what's interesting, I guess what I'm getting from what you're saying is, though, that again, just to go back to this collective prayer and making them see the other team members they need to be with is probably the only, not a cure, but medicine they could take to regulate that.
Well, so I think that the virtue of prayer is that it lets us, our subconscious, our conscience, remember, I think they're the same thing, talk to our rational mind. They don't have a conscience. They have a subconscious that's made up of instincts, but they don't have a subconscious like we do. So prayer isn't going to help them directly, but what prayer can do is it actually can help us to accept that they're mentally ill. Different. Maybe not even mentally ill. Let's say different. I've been using mentally ill and been getting some blowback on it. But different and very different, like completely different than us, but to accept them for what they are and to try to work with the things that we know kind of work to try to make them better. And when then our empathy will seem less fake to them, and they're going to be more willing to work with us. Because
I wonder if that behavior and psychopathism is actually something important for our future.
I think
is space travel going to require that kind of behavior? Long-term space travel?
Psychopathy, you mean? No, I don't think so. Actually, if anything, I was kind of going the opposite route. So what I was thinking is, if I was an alien species and I saw humans coming up where we have these two behavior sets that act very different, and one behavior set is the dominant one, us, and we're not even, basically, most people are not even aware of this other behavior set, which is really destructive and dangerous, partially because it's not understood. I think this may be a first contact protocol. I think us not being aware that there's actually two behavior sets in human beings is why aliens don't talk to us. Because who the fuck would talk to us under those conditions? We're crazy, man. I mean, like, what's going to happen when we get up there and we've got, like, planet-destroying space lasers? We're going to be the problem. We're going to be like, who gave the redneck a spaceship,
But is there a possibility that behavior will let us actually survive in those new realms,
Well, so this is, I don't want to eliminate psychopathy. I just want to stop putting them as ultimate authorities of things. Right? So a psychopath on a board is bad. A psychopath who's a president is really, really bad. Right? So, if there has to be somebody above them to say, no, okay, you're going too far. Right? Always. But that's the only thing that's the only restriction. If we just do that, don't give them exclusive access over other people's data. There needs to be somebody else who could see what they're doing so they can blow the whistle on them. And they shouldn't get in trouble at that point. They should be like, no. Maybe like an infraction, but not like you go to jail for life kind of stuff. And it's our fault. We shouldn't let you have exclusive access to that. Here, try this. And one of these things comes from a model of you're doing it again. You're interviewing me again. You're homing me, and I'm talking.
You're making me think. I have this thing in my mind I just can't get rid of. This thing about the governor and the classes that I'm required to take every year, and I cringed on my last sexual harassment class, yet here's a very powerful man in government who is being accused daily by these actions,
Cancel culture, yeah, let's go there. Yeah.
I don't mean anything bad by it, but so I hired paychecks for thousands of dollars to come and do the sexual harassment training for my staff and everyone, and in the handbook, and you could ask my guys in the office. We all sat together in the conference room, did the training. I cringed, and I said to the teacher, I said, I'm sorry, Susan. I can't imagine myself and anyone in my office talking to any woman that way. And then when you see all these terrible things coming at the governor, and then he made it mandatory for me to do those classes when I can't even imagine being that way.
It's almost like he doesn't feel guilt.
And did you see today's paper? He closed the door and touched the woman's breast.
Was that today?
Jeez, I can't look at today's front page. I couldn't believe it. I'm sorry. Maybe it sounds weird or whatever, but I can't imagine closing the door. And here's today's New York Post, right? So he closed the door and touched her breast. To me, it seems like incredible behavior that I've never seen.
Right.
But I've been told by Susan, you'd be surprised how many people act this way.
Mm-hmm. No, I wouldn't be surprised at all. Because I worked in New York City. I worked with the big money tech companies. I never worked directly on Wall Street. I only worked as a consultant for it, briefly. So, but I worked with plenty of people who work for Wall Street, and I got all the stories. So
how do you feel if some girl looks like, hey, sexy legs or whatever? I mean,
oh yeah. Well,
there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, all right. So, there's a few things. One is, I'm not in danger. Right? There's no physical danger. No one's going to force me to do anything. Yeah. Right? Mm. Yeah. Well, they want to force me to take a metal penis in my arm, but no, I'm not going to do that. No, I will. I just don't want to do it with their penis. I want to pick the penis.
Titanium.
Yeah, I'm going to pick mine. I'm not going to pick yours. You don't get to pick for me. So, but like there's so many. So one thing is, this is kind of a weird case. My past 3 guests have talked about the governor of New York, and I'm trying to, we try to avoid politics on here because it can become too divisive.
Well, let's just peel back the facts.
Let me. I'm qualifying it. It's okay. I'm saying why it's okay for us to talk about this time.
Got it.
Because for one thing, because basically nobody's on his side, so it's not really politics. Like everybody has a reason to not trust him now. So in a way, it's almost an independent discussion. Because pretty much every Democrat has a reason to not trust him or not like him, and pretty much every Republican has a reason to not trust him or not like him, and everybody in the middle has a reason to not trust him or not like him, and everybody also, on the one hand, due process. I don't believe anyone. If somebody says something to me, I want to use the maximum truth available to me, right? And that's the court system. It's not great. It's not perfect. It's not flawless. But at least let's see it in court, because all kinds. I mean, look what's happening with look at what's happening with the George Floyd case. Regardless of how the outcome's going to be, all kinds of information is coming out that we weren't hearing before, right? That's exactly what happens in court every time. Anyone who's against court is against truth, And now you could say the court's corrupt. That's different. But let's talk about that. Let's not talk about guilty until proven innocent.
Okay, but here's not.
But also, there's a huge pile of women that are after this guy, and it's kind of like the where's there's smoke, there's fire, So I never liked him personally. I never trusted him. I think generally speaking, I don't like children of politicians running for the same office as their parent. I think it's a dynasty, and it's a bad idea. I think or having original people in office, while there may be a lot of natural talent, but there's a lot of risk of nepotism, which literally means nephew or niece, by the way. So I mean, to me, it smacks of dynasty and nepotism with him. So it always did. Now I think that my frosted conspiracy side thinks that there are blackmail networks, and that they don't let anyone get too much power without having some dirt on them. And by they, I mean everybody around them. People constantly, they don't got a picture in the they didn't see him at a party, then catch him doing the wrong thing with the wrong person at the wrong time. So there's that too. So I think if I had to guess, I'd guess he's guilty. But I would guess it's because everybody in those positions, in that level of power, is guilty already, and he just ticked off the wrong people, and they've activated their blackmail network.
But consider the possibility that in this case, he made it a law for tens of millions of Americans in New York to spend money and have these sexual harassment trainings.
Right.
When all of this stuff is coming out this way.
Yeah.
He made the rules. Epic. He made the rule.
Yeah. The hypocrisy is epic. I mean, this is a person who feels no guilt, or at least is,
So is he a psychopath?
I mean, maybe he thinks he has a higher purpose, and he's willing to take one. Maybe it's a Christ thing.
Is he a psychopath?
I can't say. It's dangerous to diagnose politicians at a distance because they're wizards at faking. So I don't know. But it sure looks bad. I mean, like, he is one of the most tempting people I've seen in office to say yes to. I thought he was before. I thought he was before all this. So, But, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I could be wrong. He could just be high testosterone, super aggressive. I suspect that maybe even on drugs. I mean, like if I had to he's so angry all the time. He's so up in people's faces. It almost feels like I've known people who are addicted to cocaine who are like that. So I'm not saying he's addicted to cocaine. That is pure speculation on my part. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of hypocrisy there, and I mean, maybe he's got a Jesus complex, where thinks that he has got to struggle on the cross to make the world a better place. But I don't see a coherent moral guidelines out of him. So no, I mean,
But what's interesting is he's been accustomed to being the leader, and he felt fine with getting away with it because of the position on this grounded earth he thinks he was in. Mm-hmm. Now, you could say something very similar about the person who killed George Floyd. Mm-hmm. He had spent time being there, and he felt justified.
I think everybody felt the shade with that guy.
And he felt justified going too far with that. Mm-hmm. Same with the governor. He felt justified going too far with that.
So here's one of the tricks with psychopathy, is that the problem. If I'm right about civgene, and it is, and the civilization gene evolved humans as we know them from psychopaths. That means we're all psychopaths underneath. We can all act like the psychopaths. Anything a psychopath can do, anyone can do. The problem is they can't do what we can do. They can't imagine like we can. They can't create like we can. They can't feel that guilt like we can, right? So if you resolve yourself to a purpose, you can act just like a psychopath for the duration of that purpose. Is that what he's doing? Show me the system. Show me the ethical system he's using, and I'll believe it. Until that happens, same thing for the cop. Show me the, he may think, he is making the world a better place, but
he may have surrounded himself with all people that only tell him that and doesn't leave any room for objective conversation. I mean, this is years in making. Maybe he built his little empire, and he's the result of it.
So I don't want to disparage police, because there's lots of great police that do a great job, who are conscionable people who are trying to make the world a better place, who realize that law and order is how people interface with each other while they're working on the next ethical problem. Right? The law is what we use when we're waiting for the next ethical conclusion. So I'm not disparaging police, but psychopaths love cop jobs. They really do. They love cop jobs, they love journalism jobs, they love politician jobs, because you have autonomy. Autonomy is what they need, because here's the thing. Psychopaths, when psychopaths are being evil, yes, they can be very, very evil in other ways, but what they're really doing is they're just trying to interface with people in a predictable master-slave kind of pattern. They want to interact. Everybody's you're better or you're worse, because they don't know how, like right now, how we're acting. You and I are acting, we're just chatting. I'm not trying to put you down. I'm not trying to raise you up. You're not trying to put me down. You're not trying to raise me up. We're just equals. They don't know how to do that. They couldn't do this. If I was talking to Cuomo right now, he would be either let me drive and let me sink myself or swim, or he would come at me and try to bury me. I mean, and think about it. That totally fits with, intuitively, that's his personality. Yeah, it does come down to ethics, Laura. You're right. And it's and ethics isn't as hard to detect as we think it is, right? I mean, ethics. Even if a person has an extremely high IQ, EQ, and they have a lot of life experience, ethical systems aren't that complicated, right? You tend to be more authoritarian or more individualistic. You tend to be more faith-based, or you tend to be more rational. There's only a few vectors you can go by.
But in either way, they're not realizing the Gantt chart of their life. In each one of these items we've discussed tonight, I gotta say that very few people understand the Gantt chart of their life and the time that's made available for them to experience this plane. Right. I think that if that was more realized, they'd see as a short time to not be an idiot.
Yeah. Okay. And prayer, meditation, prayer, introspection, rationalization. These are all tools you can use to resolve who you are and what your purpose is. And everybody's so busy, like people. So part of it is, here's my frosted conspiracy theory side. Is this by purpose? Is this on purpose that we don't have the opportunity to explore ourselves because we're busy chasing the dollars trying to stay alive. You know?
We just have to evolve to that as a collective. Like you said, it's possible that the removal of psychopathic behavior and working in a collective and realizing what was left behind for here on Earth and all the mathematics will enlighten us where we can connect to the group we're supposed to be one day.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This is all internal work. Humanity has everything it needs. We could be spacefaring. We could be energy independent. We could be kind and loving and generous. In fact, we could get to the point that our only problems are Creative Commons problems, where it's just resources, right? You know, okay, there's too many people. Now there really is too many people. Now we need to do something, you know, like get off the planet. But we'll be spacefaring, so it won't even be a big deal. Okay, you guys go off to Mars. We're going to go off to Mars, have fun, stay on Earth. Okay, bye-bye. You know, we have all the tools. We're not using them. Why not?
How many humans are willing to sit and talk like this for 2-3 hours or listen to it and have this level of deep introspective conversation, you know? So, you know, everybody's too busy for stuff.
Thank you, Laurie. Yeah, there is no respect. And you know what? It's just people are panicked. They're in a total panic, and they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, they don't know how to they don't. Go ahead.
How has Joe Rogan done it all these years? How did he get here?
So I think what he did is that he had one of the things I've realized doing this show and doing long forms, like was doing short form for almost a year. I was just doing, you know, the Dystopia Report, and then I was done. And or Recipe for Disaster, which was like kind of like a prepping thing, but like but for Corona, and like doing this is endurance. I mean, this is my day. You know, when I go home, I'm like I'm totally pumped when I go home, but I'm also wiped out. And on Friday, I feel like I'm hungover. You know, so one of the things is he's physically fit. And another thing is he has a coherent emotional system. He's got an intelligent emotional. He's got ethical direction. He's like the opposite of what we were describing Cuomo as, right? You know, he knows what he wants. He knows what he wants to get. He wants to produce an environment, as Laurie said, where there's respect for others, right? Yes. And gratitude, as Laura said. And he wants to create, and he wants to have fun, and those are the things that are important to him. And that's what he did right, and that's what I'm trying to do here too. And it's weird. You would think there'd be more podcasters doing this. I mean, part of it is a technical problem. I'm having a problem with other platforms being able to upload videos this long.
Yeah.
I mean, these concepts are not simple. I mean, look, I only vapor locked twice today. I'm surprised.
They were bad though.
What?
They were bad vapor locks.
They were bad vapor locks, but you know what? I mean, I'm going to hit a vapor lock every time we're digging deep on a new topic, at least a couple of times until I get used to talking about it. So,
well, it's very interesting to think, you know, because I'm thinking about this. You know, you want to have me on the show, right? Like, and people who aren't famous. I'm just a regular guy who is very securely connected to the earth. You know.
Yeah, I don't think it matters. I think what matters is your engagement and my engagement and everybody out there's engagement with us. And are we exploring new territory? You know, if I was just talking about the same topics over and over and over, you know, it wouldn't be interesting. But because there's always, when you go big, right? You know, like Maslow's, Kohlberg's hierarchy of, theory of moral development. That's it. Kohlberg's theory of moral development, right? You know, when you go to abstract ethical principles, it encompasses everything. That's the secret of the show. We could talk about anything because anything is ethics. And tech ethics marry directly to ethics. So everything's on the table.
But if your audience doesn't know who I am and I'm just like a regular Joe Schmo,
well,
they don't know who I am. What I say has relevance.
I didn't introduce you and tell everyone who you are. I'd like to do that. Is that okay?
Yeah, but I'm just saying. I mean, think about it. What's the level of audience that like, oh, well, it's an interesting thing, but who's he? So we can't take him seriously because I never heard of him. You know.
Right. But you know what? The truth is for people who are trying to better themselves, trying to understand the world, trying to create their own ethical framework, that doesn't matter. Right? It doesn't matter who you. This is why I don't do fancy titles up on my board. Like I'm really grateful that no one's been mad that I haven't like put all their titles and their accomplishments up on the board. But actually, I noticed that Rogan does that too, and I like it. And I don't want to do that because I want what you say here to define who you are. And I think that because this may be the only opportunity you have to tell everyone who you really are ever. Which is like, why is this happening? How is that even possible? That like someone is thoughtful and is introspective and as deep as you has never done this except for once before on this show. I mean, have you ever had 3-hour interviews like this before anywhere else?
I have, but I try to hide in the background because...
Yeah, but it's not about you. It's about a group of people.
Yeah, I want to be part of a group. I don't need people to know who I am. I'd rather... You know, I've done things with other people in clergy. I don't need to be recognized. I don't know. You know,
the world would have
I'd rather
missed
be in
out.
the background.
The world would have missed out if they didn't get you doing this. Right? It didn't get.
I appreciate you. I
thoughts.
think you're awesome. Very few people want to have this conversation.
They're terrified. They're afraid they're going to
and present me publicly.
I don't know why. I mean, not only are you charming, but you're bright. So what's the problem?
The county exec liked it, but you know, that came to an end, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Ed used to be the CIO of Nassau County. In case you didn't know, you had
yeah.
And
I loved it. I think we did a great job. I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun, and I think I worked for a leader. You know, again, this is going to sound weird on the show because people like to read Newsday and other things, but believe it or not, I worked for a leader who was quite spiritual and understood some of this language, which is why I gave myself to him.
Right.
And no matter what happens, I'll always consider him someone who has always been there for me in more ways than one. He's just an incredible human being.
You know, it's funny. It's so weird. You see, this is one of the reasons I didn't want to disparage.
He's so spiritual, man.
I didn't want to disparage Cuomo so hard is because there's people who think the opposite, right? Because they're seeing a persona personified in like soundbite-driven think tanks, and that's probably not. And this is actually one of the you just made. You know, I don't know if you realized it, but you just made one of the strongest arguments against civgene. That maybe all these public servants aren't defecting. They aren't screwing us all over. They're just fucking up. They're just making mistakes, or they're having information problems, or you know, maybe the people under them, some people under them have missed something, or you know, there's just just the kind of problems you'd have in Star Trek instead of the kind of problems you have in our world, right? But
yeah, but no offense, when years later,
lucky, you know.
But when years later, groping and this terrible conversation comes out,
you can't ignore the facts either, right? Yeah. I believe you. I think that was your experience, and I think that was probably true. And also, you know, sometimes people are just victims of their own circumstances, of their own lives, too. So someone can have someone who can have a massive net positive on their life, you know, just have a single negative event, and everybody focuses in on that. And that's that cancel culture. And the problem with cancel culture is if it runs full cycle, it drags us down into full authoritarianism, because now you either obey orders or you're crushed. People don't realize that it starts with your job, but it ends with your life.
Well, I gotta be honest with you, the thing that I take from the job, while it sounds like a fancy title that I get to keep for the rest of my life, the relationships of some of the beautiful people I met from there. I mean, I had this investigator friend who became very close, and even the deputy county exec. I don't know. nobody really even knows his name or who he was, but he hid in the background, and in my opinion, worked kind of hard and did a good job. But I don't know. You'll never hear that from the media. They don't. For example, for years I would sit and represent technology at the legislature, and then I'd read the paper, and it'd be completely different stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So then I got a chance to have lunch with the reporter, and I asked him all these questions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. He had zero care of what was going on, and more about continuing the thought process he started years ago about this place.
So you had a 1 degree of separation, Gell-Mann amnesia effect, where you knew what was really going on, and you saw the press just blatantly lying. So here's the crazy thing.
Years and years, time and time again.
Here's the crazy
and I
thing.
confronted him, and he thought it was funny.
Yeah, he probably, journalism is a great job for a psychopath, because what's the worst consequence if you get caught? Fired, and if another place picks you up.
And he was a really nice dude, and I actually appreciated tremendously that he so openly discussed with me his feelings. It really gave me a breakthrough, to be honest. And if he's listening, it was the conversation we had in 2015 in November.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's great that, it's great that you had that experience, that you stepped up to it, and that you literally had the opportunity to positively affect millions of people. People don't realize Nassau County is millions. Is it like 1.4 million? Mm-hmm. I think I can call that millions. I don't know if I can call that millions.
Yes,
millions
it is.
Of people. You have made the lives of millions of people better for at least a little while. I mean, I haven't done that. I'm chicken shit compared to that. So
I didn't do anything except for serve an extremely connected and spiritual leader who allowed me to go on his mission with him.
Mm-hmm.
And because of my understanding of where I am on this universe, I'm proud to have gone on that mission, even though it turned sideways in the end.
So you feel like he had that ethical compass that I was discussing before.
He's not perfect, but from what I've seen in my relationship, it's a far cry from a lot of other people I've seen.
Your conscience.
And I just want to make one little tiny thing. So, as a technocrat, when you work in a thing where there's thousands of programmers in multiple factions, one of the best things you could do as a leader is to create standards meetings. So against everyone's will, I created these large standards meetings, and the Oracle people and the web, and I forced them to sit in a room and try to collaborate,
Mm-hmm.
And it really has an extreme level, and all of that, they got rid of that. Oh, that's just a waste of time,
Okay.
So it's just interesting how different groups look at the same problem in many different ways.
Right. Yeah, well, part of it with technocracy is they don't understand it. That's a big part of it, and it's kind of terrifying. One of the things that gave me the idea for the name of the show, and gave me the idea to come at this from an angle of talking about technocracy is, I used to be a system administrator, and I worked with a lot of other system administrators over the years, and I noticed a pattern. A lot of them did this. A lot of them would be given tasks where they had to do moderation in a group of people, and the easiest, quickest way to solve the problems that group of people were causing by having maybe less temperamental, but discussions similar to what we're having now, is to censor them. And they'd run right to censorship. And I'm like, this is terrifying. These people control the world, and they're censorship happy. I kind of saw what's happening now coming a decade ago. I'm like, how do we, and people say, how do we get here? Because those people never really thought about, people who are admins think about computers, they don't think about ethics. They need to think about ethics a lot more. And think about the fact that negative examples are what make our conscience work better. And if our conscience doesn't have exposure to negative examples, which you only get if bad speech is left up, you get a lot of crazier and crazier behavior until it goes completely over the moon. And by the way, I just wanted to say, while we were talking, I don't know, I don't know if you're watching this video or have it queued up someplace, but I'm watching the comments. The compliments coming in for you are amazing. People are saying really nice things about you, and me too. Thanks everybody. I appreciate it. It's really kind.
Listen, I got a lot of gift cards to hand out tomorrow morning, so I understand.
Hey, I think this might be. Do you feel like this is a good place to wrap it up?
Yeah, man, you look tired, man.
No, I'm good. I'm good, but I can keep going. But I think that we gave people. We're not done, but I think we gave people enough that they can take away from this and think about how they interface with the world better. And I'll just have you back on, and we'll do more.
I love it. I just want to leave the last thought that. Being together with family and believing in God has value, and we got to bring some of that back, in my opinion.
Okay, that's valid. There's family is the one thing that we all have in common, right? And I hope that never changes. It might change. Technology might change that, but I hope it never changes because I think it's part of the human condition that makes us not just tolerable, but human.
And let's not keep people out who don't have family, who've moved here by themselves or have lost their relatives. Right. Family could be your friend. It's togetherness. You can call a friend a relative, and sometimes they're even more close to you than your actual relative. So family doesn't mean all blood relation.
Right. You got 2 votes. You got a few votes in the comments for a part 2. So you're coming back.
Nice.
Oh, part 3.
I gotta tell you,
I
feel like I've met this person, and he might be watching, but I've met this clergy, and I don't know. I've known him for many years, and he's a leader in this area, and I don't know, he's like family, even though that's weird.
Yeah. And the best thing in the world. So friendship doesn't have to be with family, and family doesn't have to be wonderful to us, or even they can be a very negative experience. But the best thing in the world is when you have family and friendship all wrapped up in one.
Yeah, God bless you, man. And you know what? And I look at you, possibly, compared, you and I could talk to each other without judging each other.
Right.
That's how it starts. Open conversation without judging each other.
Well, I'm hoping to bring more people into this fold, and there's going to be a broader circle of people who can talk to each other without judgment. And without introducing destructive techniques and consequences. Yeah. All right. Thanks so much for coming on, man.
You're the man. I gotta tell you, you are my prophet. You are the prophet of today's time.
Thanks so
people
much.
don't realize.
That. Even though I was.
No.
Even though I vapor locked twice.
Time. And you are like a prophet, man. And thank you very much for allowing me to learn from you, man.
Well, no, thanks for talking to me and giving me ideas. You gave me some great stuff. So every time I talk to you, I have more stuff. I have homework every time I talk to you. So I appreciate you being on. And thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I just wanted to say don't forget to like, love, share. And you know what? Don't just share. Don't just hit the share button. Also, tell people a few words about it. Hey, you may not be in the long stuff, but if you always felt like sound bites aren't enough for you, this is for you. Something like that. Yeah.
And talk about Laura and Mark, right? They're part of the show. They're the big part of the show here, Mark.
Yeah, Area 22 is been really awesome to me and helped. I mean, I feel like this is like a record label and I'm a rock band. And they've just been treating me with love and nurturing me and trying to make this all happen. So I'm part of the family here, and I feel welcome, and I'm really glad I'm here.
It's okay, man. We have time for more compliments.
And you know what? I mean, look, I have worked my ass off through my life to not be a smoke blower. And when I say stuff like this, I really mean it. This is great, and I'm really glad I'm part of this. And thanks so much for being on. And we'll have you on again soon, maybe in a month or two. I'm not. There's no restrictions like last time. I'm letting people come back fairly quickly. So.
Let
me know when you want to come out here and brainstorm in public again.
Yeah, I'm happy to it, man. If anybody got anything out of this, that's positive, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, everybody, thanks for tuning in, and choose wisely, choose to share. Good night.
Thank you.